tegen het kampioenschap dit jaar. Dat is maar gezien van live commentaar na de
on board in the number one Maserati here with Bertolini looking at the tail end of that Corvette. Quite a daunting sight.
Yes, it is. Corvette's actually front and side of him, so wherever he pretty much looks, other than in his mirrors, he's going to see another Corvette. If he looks in his mirrors, he'll see a Celine, because Anthony Kumpen's car is back there. He's sharing with Bert Longin, who's already had a race win here this morning in the Belgian GT Championship, so Bert's dander will be up.
We have, as you can see, cameras in both of the yellow Phoenix Corvettes, so we're going to have a grandstand view of this. We do have a camera in the Maserati, which is second back on the left, black and green, and we have another camera right back here on the 17 car. Now, who's starting this? Is it Matteo
Yes.
Bobby at the wheel?
Yes, I believe it is on this one. Pedro Lamy did the qualifying duties, and of course they're carrying a 40 kilo penalty plus the 25 for being a Maserati. But let's remind ourselves, it's not a Vitaphone Maserati, it's a Vita Systems Maserati.
Completely different
other thing.
Yeah, it's a very different thing altogether, because it's got a different name.
That's it.
Yes, I knew there was a reason.
Yep.
It is a ringer, there's no two ways about it. Vitaphone have come here to pack this grid and to try and pack the podium as well. They want it settled here and now, and you can understand that perfectly well, can't you?
Oh yes, you can indeed. They want to get their hands on the title PDQ, and if they can do it by bringing in an extra car, they would consider that's fair and proper.
Engine started and waiting for the signal that says the formation lap can begin here. Quite a short circuit, quite a short lap, you'll notice, so we'll be in action very shortly. Zolder is underway, and the GT2 cars rolling past our cameras. The GT1's already into turn one. It's a big one. It's a long left-hander here. Have a look at this. Down towards what is essentially a brief hairpin. They run alongside the Albert Canal, heading back away from this camera position, and make a right turn at turn 4, which is where yesterday Andrea Bertolini had his moment of excitement with the throttle jam, and he just went straight on in this corner and underneath the tyre barriers, and then they turned behind the paddock for the run down to the first of the 4 chicanes here. That was through the corner named after Lucien Bianchi, the Belgian Le Mans winner, I believe.
I believe so, and as the cars come down, they'll then head towards the Villeneuve chicane out at the back of the circuit.
There's a little hill just round this corner as Anthony Kumpen locks it up
again.
And
it's about the 4th time he's done that already.
It's quite a warm afternoon. It's about 18 degrees, I think, on track temperature, so not too bad. Up over the hill and on towards the chicane at the Tellenbach corner, which is called the Villeneuve chicane, although it was never here when he was racing here. And then on round the back and back out onto the start-finish straight through the Jackie Hinks chicane. You can see there's a little elevation change on this circuit, but not very much.
No, we're very much in the flat part of Belgium, aren't we? There certainly isn't Spa-Francorchamps, where we've got massive amounts of hill and wood.
No, as I said yesterday, there aren't any hills in Belgium at all, but I'd completely forgotten the pointy bit up north. Which is indeed one of the characteristics of Spa-Francorchamps. But as you can see now, they are in line astern behind the Corvette pace car, and they will shortly resume grid order, which means side by side, and then the pace car will pull off into the pit lane entrance. It's a very short pit lane here, and when it does so, the race comes under the control of the pole man, which in this case is Carl Wendlinger. It's his job to hold them in place, and if our officials are satisfied that everything is as it should be, and it's looking pretty good at the moment, then we will get a signal to go, and this 9th round of the series will be underway. Grid order being resumed. As soon as the signal is given, they can start racing, but this has got quite a nice long start-finish straight here at Zolder, so I think everybody will be on that straight. Everybody will be able to see the green light, and they'll know when it's time to go. A little bit of bumping and boring going on there between Corvettes and Maseratis already, I think, as they come round now. final chicane, start-finish straight, side by side, perfectly well behaved, and it's go. We are racing here at Zolder, round 9 underway. Hazeman trying to get the drop on Wendlinger as they go towards turn 1. They turn left here. Wendlinger in front of us, Hazeman round the outside, and he's a bit of a loser, but he's done it. Wendlinger holds it from Hazeman. We're on board with Bertolini, and Mike Hazeman tried but didn't do it. Kirkcaldy, and that's Biaggi, isn't it?
Yeah, yes it is. It's the second string AF Corsa car and the lead CR Scuderia car. That will not amuse CR Scuderia at all. Now, did he get pushed from behind, I wonder?
Something
Something very wrong. It looks as though maybe he got pushed by there was an Aston Martin coming through, wasn't there? Alan Simonson having been demoted back into the GT ranks because of that penalty. Meanwhile, up at the sharp end of the field, it's still Wendlinger in the lead from Hazemans, with Bertolini tucked into third ahead of Xavier Marson, and it was Fessler who actually came off worst in that first corner melee.
I thought that was Hazeman going backwards, but in fact it was Fessler being where he should have been, and the top 4 or 5 places as they should be. Masson looking particularly strong at the moment, but as you so rightly said, I think that was Simonson who, or was it the other Aston Martin? There are 2 very similar Aston Martins in that pack, are there not?
Yes, there are. The G2 version was tucked in behind Simonson, so
and it's currently at the end of our field at the moment, and that could be 51 and 50 in the gravel tap. Yellow flags at turn 1, and we're still not quite sure what occurred there as we go on board in the second of the Maseratis.
Now that will have made a huge dent in the wishes of CR Scuderia in their hope to get further up the team's championship, because they were really counting on getting both cars well into the points this weekend.
Last 2 times CR Scuderia have been on pole position. They have been knocked out in the first couple of corners through no fault of their own, and that really is a great shame because that team has done so well in its first year. We're back on board at the front though. This is the battle between Hazeman and Wendlinger, and Hazeman will be reasonably relaxed. He's got Masson behind him. There's a little bit of a cushion between him and Andrea Bertolini. There he is, and that's the championship battle. There's the number 10 car, and that looks completely untouched, doesn't it?
Yes, he's tucked in at the moment behind Sandy Legrau, and will be looking to make places up. He's made a couple or 3 already, having started 11th, now up to 8th.
Yes, with the number 10 Gigawave car, which set the pole time here yesterday and then got sadly demoted, looking strong, and with the Aston Martin and Thomas Enger in pit lane, I think it's safe to say that that's where the contact was. Although we couldn't actually see it, all we saw was Andrew Kirkcaldy's car come spearing through the pack, T-bone Thomas Biaggi.
Yes, Biaggi, I think, an innocent victim equally in the midst of all that activity. Here's Marcel Fessler, a man with a nice new Audi contract under his belt for next year, but still going strong for Corvette this season. We've got this race and Argentina still to go, and the car sport team will be desperate to try and get as many points up at the front of the championship as they can, and try and deny those points to the Maseratis.
Well, are we going to see a little bit of
contact there, or perhaps that's leftover debris from the earlier contact between the Aston Martin and the Ferraris ahead? The car we're focusing on is that of Fabio Babini, which is the Scuderia Ecos Pirelli tyred version of the Ferrari F430.
And almost at the back end of the GT2 field. We still have yellow flags waving at that first corner with the 2 Ferraris in the gravel, but we also have Wendlinger, Hazeman, Masson and Bertolini, and then this car, Marcel Fessler, in 5th place. All the gaps after 2 complete laps are 0 point something. They're still very close together. It's with the gap between Negrau and Kumpen, and that's Kumpen's car at the tail end of this field, and the gap back to the Maserati behind is the biggest on the leaderboard in the top 10 at the moment, at 1.5 something seconds.
Yeah, fastest lap currently to Marcel Fessler. We're on board with him now in his attempt to get back onto terms with Andrea Bertolini. It was Xavier Marson who made the demon start though, the local man with the local knowledge, making up 2 places from the start, overtaking both Bertolini and Fessler. And there are the 2 cars in question, with Anthony Kumpen's Celine in the background.
Wendlinger is the fastest man on track at the moment, as as you'd expect. And last time through he was 1.4 seconds in front of Mike Hazeman, who had a comfy 2 and a bit seconds between himself and Marson. And then here comes his championship rival, and then it's Fassler and Kumpen at the back end. And into the pits comes the other of the CR Scuderia cars.
This is not good news at all. Malcolm Swetnam will be tearing his hair out.
Now that car had a problem in practice on Saturday, and then it had a problem in qualifying on Saturday. Shed a drive shaft and shed the track really, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Once the drive shaft had let go, there's pretty much nothing holding the wheel together, and once the brake disc let go, the whole corner just disintegrated really, and the wheel came spearing off. And the result, of course, was that Tim Mullen was exit stage left into the gravel. Happily not into the barriers, though.
And now it's in the pit lane, and it having been rebuilt twice, at least to our knowledge this weekend, there must be a question mark. I don't think that's a strategy call at all.
No, it'd be interesting to see if it were. They've got a new co-driver on board, James Sutton, but it seems unlikely that Malcolm would bring that car in so soon, having already seen one of his cars exit the game altogether. It seems unlikely he would then play roulette with his final remaining one.
Yellow flags still at turn 1, so no fast first sectors, please, from anybody, because we've seen
from Mike Hazeman, who said
we've seen what happens when the stewards see that, and Mike Hazeman has in fact just gone purple in sector 1, which is very naughty.
That's on his previous lap. Fastest lap of all though goes to Greg Franchi. This was the Labour Competition Celine, who were also slapped on the wrist for speeding under yellows in qualifying yesterday.
But both his 3 sector times were pretty standard in sector 1, and then 2 fast sectors after that. And we did see that in qualifying yesterday, that some people were putting in fast laps with the second and third sector only, and taking it steady under yellows in sector 1. And it's that sort of racetrack. Sector 1's quite open and sweeping, and you can make up some time in the other 2.
Sandy McGraw has fallen behind Alan Simonson, who's taken that place last time round.
So up to 8th, that's a climb of 2 places for Simonson.
Well, I think it'll make him 7th actually now, won't it?
Yes, it will, yes.
Because this will only come on to timing scoring once we cross the line again. We're on board with Andy McGrath. Not had the happiest of weekends here. This car now with 60 kilos of penalty weight on from its Nagara wing seems to have been struggling somewhat, and there the timing scoring now catches up with that change, and Simonson best part of a second ahead already, and off in pursuit now of Anthony Kumpen, who's got a couple of seconds to find if he's going to do that.
Sunny afternoon here at Zolder, as you can see. Great day to go racing. Great backdrop for a championship drama like this one.
Still got to recover Thomas Biaggi's Ferrari from turn 1, so we're under double wave yellows there, and that will cause people, I hope, just to be a little more cautious, with due respect to the volunteer marshals who will be trying to move that car to a place of safety. However, once they're through there, as Marcel Fessler will tell you, it's gloves off and let's get down to it.
Which is what you're looking at now. Matson at the moment just has a little bit of a lead, and can't quite tell by looking at the times whether this group are dropping away from him or closing up. Now, we saw normally in racing, if you're fighting with someone, you fall away from the leaders, but last time out in the GT2 pack we saw completely the opposite, didn't we?
Yes, we did, and this pursuing gaggle of 3 cars, a 10th quicker last time round than Xavier Martin in 3rd, but not much in it. Quite a lot of leaf debris in the front of Bertolini's radiators. I wonder if that might eventually come into play and cause a little overheating.
There was a lot of leaf debris blowing about the back of the circuit as they came down towards the first chicane on the second lap of this race, and it just seemed to be that Andrea Bertolini caught most of it.
Scooped it all up, yeah, which is very good of him, very noble. It doesn't seem to be afflicting the other cars around him.
Meanwhile, gaps are starting to go at the front. Vendinger has now got the 2 and 1/10 second lead over Mike Hazeman, who has 2.3 over Masson, but then it's 0.5, 0.3, 0.4 between the little group that we were looking at, and then it goes 1.4s, 1.8s, and out to 2 seconds. So it's quite tight in the middle still, and we're right in the thick of it now.
Yeah, Wendler and Sharp being the only driver pairing to have scored more than one overall victory this season in the GT1 category. They've had 3 wins already. Nobody else has managed more than one.
And yet they're not in contention for the title scrap, really. That's largely because Spa made such a big hole in their championship campaign. Back to our team of the week in GT2, looking at the 78 car there of Joel Mathias, who is in 5th place in GT2. And that's the G2 Aston Martin, which is now back on track, having been in to the pits and lost 2 laps.
He's a couple of laps down, so although he's on the track in the same vicinity as this group of 3 who are all squabbling over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th place in GT2, he's not actually part of that battle because he's a further lap adrift, and already Mark Lieb looking as though he's getting pretty fed up in getting stuck behind Joel Mathias, and he will want his way past.
This still continues, and the giveaway car towed right back up onto the tail of Anthony Kumpen. Alan Simonson was very quick round here in qualifying, obviously enough, set the fastest time, and now has fought his way up through the field, and he's got a lot of work to do because this group are obviously very busy with their own squabble, and being here is one thing, getting through this is another story altogether, isn't it?
Yeah, and it looks rather as though Bertolini is the cork in the bottle because everybody else is closing up behind him, and he's not really making any inroads into the lead of Xavier Marson, although there he is right in front of us. Marson going fat last time round, just a couple of hundredths slower than the pursuing Maserati, but it's nip and tuck all the way. But between Marson and Hazeman, you've got nearly a 2-second gap and almost 3 up the road to Carl Wendlinger, who's got the benefit so far of a clear track ahead of him, although Lattery will come into play shortly.
12 minutes done, 8 laps complete, and it is still as it was going through turn 1, really. Wendlinger, Hazeman, Marson, Bertolini, then Fassler and Kumpen.
That was the recovery truck on the right side as we came whistling past it in Marcel Fessler's car, just ready to scoop the Biaggi Ferrari out of the way and finally clear that sector 1 so we can get to full circuit racing again.
White flags showing there to indicate the presence of a recovery vehicle on the circuit. The white yellows have been withdrawn.
Yep. Not just that someone surrendered in the corner.
Now, what can Alan Simonson do about Anthony Kumpen, if anything? Kumpen is glued to the tail end of the Corvette in front of him. That's Marcel Fassler, who doesn't seem to be able to do anything about the Corvette. It's a Maserati, is it not? Yes, it is. It's a Maserati in front of him. On board now with Fassler, and you can see the speed of that number 2 car just on the gas as easy as you like, and yet it is nice and heavy, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. And there's all that leaflet that we were talking about on the front of the Maserati. It doesn't seem to be worrying their performance one jot at the moment, however. And this is the equidistant battling fivesome on the way down. Zandy Negrão being left behind somewhat now in the trail of all of this, down in 8th place. Matteo Bobby in 9th. Franchi making his recovery drive from his grid penalty up to 10th place, and Jose Maria Lopez in the ACA Argentina Ferrari 550 Maranello, who started right at the back because of that technical infringement, has made his way up to 11th place and is now ahead of all the GT2 field.
So that's taken him 9 laps to achieve that as we go behind the pits and into the first chicane, turning left and right and then away up over the crest towards the new Villeneuve chicane and Turlenbach with Alan Simonson. And as we say, he's here, but that seems to be as much as he can do for the moment. This 4 cars in front of him. Well, I'm sure that the shadow of the car in front actually protecting their eyes from the sun. That's how close they are.
Yeah, and this really is a circuit where passing is at a premium. It's a tricky, technical circuit. It's quite high speed, but there aren't many obvious passing places. No really long straights into tight corners as we had at Nogaro last time out. So getting up alongside somebody, very difficult indeed. Getting up close behind them, as we can see, not such a challenge, but you make your way past, you've got to either force the other person into an error, or you've got to please sublimely brave yourself.
This is the classic place for overtaking, and you can see then there's a couple of people in this train thinking about it, but you have to be noticeably quicker, or as Graham said, a whole lot braver. And it's early days in this race for Brave, isn't it?
Well, it's early days for doing something that would risk your race, certainly. As we get into the final stint, it might be interesting to see how things unwind, but for the moment, discretion being the better part of valour for this group. They're all staying nose to tail and making sure that everybody keeps everybody else honest.
Well, Masson seems to be the cork in the bottle for this little group. He does seem to be holding up everybody behind him, and that means that in front, Wendlinger is scooting away with it. He's now scraped a 3-second advantage over Mike Hazelman. Fassler's thinking about it here. He is ready to go, isn't he? Marcel Fassler's had enough, and it's time to pass, and he's already thinking about different places where he can do it. He's showing the front end of the Corvette, putting it into the mirrors, so that Bertolini will see the yellow in his mirrors and know that Marcel Fassler is getting agitated. He's been waiting for Bertolini, I think, to do something about Masson, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And now he's decided he's going to do it himself. And what's this? Looks like a strategy call for BMS.
Yes, John Comathius coming in to hand over the 78 car to Jose Manuel Balbiani, the Argentine. Early stop for them. Just 16 and a half minutes into the race.
As long as both drivers complete one minimum stint of 35 continuous minutes in the car, the rules are satisfied. So that does mean that the final stint will have to be a minimum of 35 minutes, and beyond that you can work some strategy. We have seen some creativity in the strategy department.
Yes, we have, and we may see some in this little group before too long, because none of them is able to get any real benefit from following one another. Alan Simonson will be fuming under his crash helmet for having gained that 10-place penalty, and the subsequent result is that he's got a quicker car under him, but he can't do anything about it because his way is blocked by 4 cars ahead. That's his team looking on, getting equally frustrated.
Of course, we should remember that this is Gigawave's first birthday in this championship. This was their first event. Last year, the final round of the championship, they brought the Aston Martin along for testing, and so this is their first circuit really this year where you could say they had data available to them.
Yes, and not very little, if any, in fact, changed to the circuit layout between last year's visit and this. The weather conditions are absolutely perfect, as you say, Richard, for racing. A very, very nice autumn day here.
I think Bertolini's got the hurry-up message from Marcel Fassler, and he's starting to look a little bit more aggressive behind Masson now.
Yeah, we've seen Vitaphone work their magic in the pit lane. It would be good if they could work some magic out on the track as well to get themselves clear of this Q-Park sponsored SRT car. This is just having a little look down the inside there, but again, no way through. If there's somebody who knows his lines around here, it's got to be Xavier Marson, a man with all the local knowledge, making good use of that knowledge to make the Corvette as wide as he legitimately can. And coming off onto the back of slower traffic now, that looked like Tim Mullen's car back out.
It is indeed Tim Mullen, and Masson has got through, so has Bertolini, but I think Fassler's going to have to wait. Yes, he does. That's not going to please him over much, is it? Oh, no, look at this.
That's frustration. This is Richard Westbrook now, having made his way ahead of Jimmy Bruni, and he's got a half-second lead, so that's the Porsche in the lead again. Richard Westbrook last time, not with his regular co-driver Emmanuel Collard, but Collard is back this week.
Interestingly enough, the championship battle there is first place and third place. Westbrook gunning for second spot in the championship, so too the 77 crew, Malucelli and Ruberti. And at the moment, Westbrook winning that particular battle.
Yeah, Malucelli some 10 seconds adrift of the battle we're looking at now at the head of the field. Jimmy Bruni's car still weighing a fair chunk more than most of the other Ferraris around them, but in fact only a couple of kilos heavier than the Pro Speed Porsche, which has made its way through. The Pro Speed car having gained a big chunk of ballast following its success down in the south of France.
A little bit of a look down the outside of Westbrook there as they went over the hill, and I think Bruni's saying, look, this car is quicker than yours, but I just can't find a long enough piece of straight road to go past you, otherwise I would. There's our G2 competitor, the Gillet Vertigo of Baz Linder's 19th place on our overall leaderboard, which is an improvement over the only other G2 car on the circuit, which is 22nd.
Because he's had that pit stop already, of course. Stefan Mucker out in the Aston Martin now, having taken over from Thomas Enger, who started the car.
On board with Simonson still stuck behind Anthony Kumpen. You can see how close they are.
And all this is allowing Anthony Brown's Maserati to get back into its stride and slowly close the gap. A little bit of a gap opening up now between Fester and Kumpen. That wasn't there a couple of laps ago. And look how much faster Simonson is through that corner, looking very racy. We've got more lap route. Here is the Vertigo you were mentioning. Just about looking up the inside, but Kumpen slamming the door.
It's definitely a quicker car, isn't it? And Simonson now, I think, must be feeling the benefit as the petrol is burnt away, the weight's going down. The car will be a little bit easier. Bertolini still hasn't managed to do anything about Xavier Massen's Corvette. Watch the power of that big American V8 on this front straight. Just drives away and puts himself out of reach by the time they get to turn one. Simonson still not close enough to Kumpen. And in the background, the Grau has also got his way past the 101 Gillet Vertigo to join on to the back end of the train so they can do it all again on this lap.
Yeah, and closing again right up under brakes. One of the things that has slowed the Celine down has not been particularly good on the brakes over the season, and they've had a plague of starter motor problems, including another one yesterday. This is the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th, still all very close together. Here is your GT2 head of the pack, if you were, with Richard Westbrook still ahead there of Jimmy Bruni. Jimmy not by any means giving up though, and staying right in the wheel tracks of the Pro Speed Porsche. Pro Speed, the brainchild of Rudy Penders, so another Dutch team in the entry.
And you can see also the speed of the Porsche on that front straight, and Bruni closing up under brakes, but the Porsche are able just to get away from him.
Except of course that Rudy Penders is Belgian and they're a Belgian team. And that's where we are.
Belgium.
Got a bit of one.
Albert Canal on your left, up towards turn 4. Lucien Bianchi-Bott.
That Porsche really does change direction very nicely now. They seem to have got a very good setup on the car as this 3rd, 4th, 5th train continues to charge around the Belgian countryside. W. Martin just able to keep enough distance between himself and the Maserati under acceleration into the first corner to prevent Bertolini from even having a look, and he will try and have a look and he'll show him as much of the Maserati as he can in the mirrors, but at the moment not able to find a way past. Looks every bit the racer, Bertolini, but he just can't find a gap that's sufficiently wide to squeeze the Maserati through alongside the Corvette.
Big wave car still stuck behind Kumpen. We're on board now, going past the back view of the paddock, and braking about now for the first chicane.
Aston looking very comfortable across the curbs and through the corners.
Anthony Kumpen has already won a race today, incidentally, because he was part of the team in the Belgian GT Championship race which took place here this morning, and emerged victorious from that. So he's got a bit of track time as well, so he knows exactly what's out there.
Yeah, Bert Lodging likewise when it comes to his turn to take over. Here we are, still following the back of this car. I'm sure Bertolini will be getting hardly fed up of looking at the back of a black and white Corvette.
More particularly, he'll be getting fed up with it because the gap between Massen and Hazeman is still quite large. Wendlinger, after 16 laps, has got 6.5 seconds in hand now over Mike Hazeman, and he's quietly getting on with his job as into the pits Oh dear, comes the 57 car. But I suppose we're now talking about scheduled stops, aren't we? Not an oh dear at all.
Yep, that's Marcello Zani, who is back in the championship, having been with the EB Motors Porsche team last year, in fact finishing second here last time he visited Zolder. So a welcome return to Marcello Zani, who will be handing over to Henri Moser, the man whose drive this has been in the Kessel Racing Ferrari all season, as a thank you for winning the GT3 championship last year.
Dario Masson with Bertolini behind him, 0.2 of a second, the gap going over the line last time. SRT pits. Christophe Boucher will be foaming at the mouth watching this, won't he?
Yeah, SRT's first Zolder Racing GT1 category. They've been around for a good while. This Patrick Sellesla's Belgian crew have been around a good while, but first time they've raced in Zolder in the GT1 category.
Now, we saw a bit of overtaking here last year, braking for this right-hander, and we've seen a couple of people think about it this year, but we haven't seen it actually happen there. So it's still looking like the classic overtaking places are the first port of call for all of these drivers, and that's coming up in just a moment as we head towards the end of this front straight. But once again, the gaps are just a little bit too big for any of them to do anything about it. It's so closely matched, and this is such a difficult circuit to pass on.
Yes, you can't just grab the slipstream close enough to get towed up right onto the back wing of another car in sufficient space to make an attack before the next corner comes along. Nonetheless, it looks great on the pictures, and a real battle going on all the way through. If you just relax for a moment, somebody else will fly past. Anthony Kumpen setting his personal best lap last time round of 28.04, which was some 6/10 quicker than Fessler's, who's now stuck behind Bertolini in turn, stuck behind Marson.
Yes, don't try this at home, but just imagine being on the motorway, being this close to the car in front of you at 70 miles an hour, never mind 120 or 130, just think 70 miles an hour, this close to the car in front, trying to get past it in the outside lane without going into either of the other two, and to keep the car behind you and stop him doing the same, and then go and do that for 2 hours without a break. Well, it needs to be 40 minutes, but just try it for half an hour, and then think that you've got to get back in the car and do it again half an hour later. That's the kind of pressure all of these guys are under. Look how close they are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all in the same picture, all fractions of a second apart. They've been doing it now for 18 laps.
Yeah, and Kumpen and Simonson are both lapping quicker than the three ahead in the recent laps, and have towed right back up onto the back of the group. So the train that was 3 has now become a train of which is 5, and number 5 in the group is still Simonson, as again we get the look of Bertolini coming alongside Sacha Marson, just showing him the whole front of the Maserati, saying, for pity's sake, get out of my way. And Marson saying, I'll have none of that, this is my home track, you find a way round on your own, mate.
Absolutely correct though as well. I mean, there may well be blue flags being waved on this racetrack for GT2 cars to get out of the way of GT1s, but there is absolutely no reason for Masson to get out of Bertolini's way, and it's Bertolini's job to get past him, and it's Jimmy Bruni's job to get past Richard Westbrook, and at the moment he can't do that either, can he?
He's having more fun than enough trying though, isn't he? And Jimmy Bruni really will be relishing this battle with Richard Westbrook, both extraordinarily experienced drivers, the pair of them in their relative marks, and very successful indeed. Bruni already having the advantage of having clinched the Drivers' Championship last time out, and AF Corsa the teams, of course. But Pro Speed have something to prove here. They've had a fairly lean season, have Porsche, with just the 2 victories last time at Nogaro, and then much earlier in the season back in May in Monza, and it's all mixed up again because we're coming past, that's one Aston lapping the other, Stefan Mucker having to make way for this train of cars going through. That's Mucker's orange trimmed Aston on the right hand side, with the damage you can clearly see there to the right front, occasioned as Thomas Enger, it was at the wheel at the time, who came into contact sadly with Andrew Cocodi, the pole sitter in GT2, and pushed him out onto the right hand side of the track in turn 1, and collecting Thomas Biaggi's car in the process.
And I think putting an end to AF Corsa's hopes of a 1-2 in the championship. And they've got they've got teams and drivers, so they can't be greedy, can they?
No, quite possibly putting an end to Malcolm Swettenham's hope of Sean Scuderia getting second place in the teams championship as well.
So a lot happened in that first corner, and we're with Zandy Negrão now, who's been at the back of this little group for quite some time. He's in 8th place, and it looks a lot further away when you look through the windscreen with our camera. But he's put the time on the screen. It is 0.9 of a second. That's how close.
Well, he's been. Jimmy Bruni just being forced wide there by Richard Westbrook, and having to take to the pit entry. And I wonder if that was intentional. In fact,
waving as he came in there. I think he's quite happy with that. I think that was him just.
I think that might be him undoing the belts actually. But we won't pass too much comment on that.
No, he can't do that. To be at a standstill before you do that. I think that was just the team were waiting for him in pit lane, so they were expecting him. So I think that was just a little bit of bravado by Jimmy Bruni.
Yes,
because he's been stuck behind Richard Westbrook for so long, hasn't he?
Yeah. I don't mind. I'll come into the pits, and here he is handing over to Tony Wielander. Routine stop for the team, and a very well-drilled team they are. They were practicing endlessly during this morning's warm-up session, both driver changes and tyre changes, along with dummy refuelling.
Well, Tony Wielander, like the rest of us, will have watched Kimi Raikkonen get out of Felipe Massa's way to hand him second place in a race in China, which of course is strictly against FIA regulations and was occasioned only by tyre trouble on the Ferrari, of course. But you won't see any of that here, because there's nobody going out of anybody's way here unless they're made to.
No, and everybody's got to hope that Fabio Bobini can keep out of the way in the Scuderia Costa Ferrari ahead. The GT2 car currently lying in 6th place in class, behind Mark Lieb's Pro Speed Porsche, and just staying to the left side of the track, allowing everybody hopefully to come through as a group. Certainly that's going to get Fessler right up onto the back of the Maserati, having a little look there, but again nowhere to go. The Maserati looking a little loose coming through the corner there. The next pair are now making their way past the Celine and the Aston Martin. Can the Aston gain the place under braking here? No, but Fessler can. Fessler's made his way past Bertolini, and that is the one the team wanted as much as anything. They've got Hazelmans now in 2nd and Fessler in 4th, and both of them ahead of Bertolini's Maserati.
And here comes Anthony Kumpen, and I'm tempted to suspect that Bertolini, who's had that car rebuilt, might have a problem with it suddenly, because he's just given up 2 places. Fessler tried when they were stuck behind the 62 Scuderia Costa car, didn't happen. Then unexpectedly he managed to get past straight away, and then Kumpen went past, and perhaps, I mean, you were speculating could be all that leaf debris, maybe it's overheating, but if so you'd expect him to be in the pits now, wouldn't you?
Well, it may not quite be critical yet, and they may need a lapse notice to get the driver changeover ready. I noticed also, looking more closely, that the 3 Corvettes, Xavier Martin has quite a build-up of leaf litter in his radiator ducts as well. Up towards the back of Alan Simonson now come Greg Franchi as well, just separated for the moment by Fabio Bobini's Ferrari, but that won't last for long. So Simonson has lost out in that because Negrão has made his way past him.
In fact, I'd say Alan Simonson has gone right off the boil, and that either means he had a bit of trouble getting past the 62 car, or he's got a bit of trouble. Well, he's only just found his way past Fabio Bobini, and Frankie's already there.
Yeah,
I wonder if this car's got a problem that we cannot see.
Well, unless he got caught up in all the melee of getting past, or trying to get past Bobini last time round. His last lap was some 3.5 seconds down on what would be his regular lap time.
Well, Frankie's got a radiator grill full of leaf mould or dead leaves as well, whatever it is. It's autumn here in Belgium, and although it's a lovely sunny day, there is a lot of trackside debris which we saw sucked up early on when the whole pack were together. But at the moment it seems Simonson's gone off the boil, and so too has Andrea Bertolini. Wendlinger is still the man with a 6-second lead over Mike Hazelman, and behind him, still in 3rd place, is Xavier Masson, and he's still being threatened by Marcel Fassler, and this one will run and run.
Fessler getting very racy at the moment, some 3/10 quicker last time round already. Now he's clear of that bottleneck between Bertolini and Kumpen. He's made his way very quickly up onto the back of Xavier Marcin. We've seen Marcin start to lose some of his speed on the end of his sessions as one of the... he's run wide there, and that's allowed Fessler through. I think he's going to make that stick well and truly, and I think Marcin just outbraked himself a little into the corner there. Ahead of them there's a GT2 battle as well, with one of the BMS Scuderia cars showing some damage at the front. But that's now put Hazelmans and Fessler up into second and third, and both now going off in pursuit of Carl Wendlinger.
Well, this has suddenly taken a very rosy championship glow for the Phoenix Corvette team, because they have got almost what they want, second and third place. What they want, of course, is first and second. Best of all, though, they've got Maseratis behind them, Bertolini in P6 at the moment, Negrão P7, and where is 17? Matteo Bobby at the wheel. It's right down, and that was not quite the way it was meant to be, was it?
That was Matthias Russo, I think, getting a little help along the way round the corner from Marcel Fessler and his urgent attempts to get past, because he's now broken up what was a very good battle for second place in GT2 between Matteo Malucelli, whose car we saw getting very sideways there, and everybody locking up on the brakes, trying to make their way past this is Russo, Malucelli a little bit further up the road, but the two Maseratis being held up.
Not a good day to be a GT2 driver, is it?
Not at the moment, certainly not round here. Very tight and twisty, and wherever you are, there is really only one line through these chicanes, and if you're on it, you can't go off it, because there'll be too much dirt and dust and marbles, and if you try and stay away from the line to let the quicker cars through, you're going to end up in the scenery.
And as you so rightly said, there's a little bit of trailing bodywork on the 77 car of Malucelli, but I don't think it's affecting his performance, although aerodynamically it might be a bit of a problem for him. But at the moment, it's just the different speeds of GT1 and GT2 that made that look every bit as hairy as I'm sure it was in the cockpit.
And into the mix again, just briefly we saw the Gillet Vertigo getting involved, but I think he's pulled off into pit lane.
Let's have
Simonson.
A little recap now of what we've got, because it's still the situation as it was. It's still Carl Wendlinger. He's 5 seconds clear of Hazelman now. Hazelman is beginning to reel him in. Then it's Fassler. Then it's Masson. So a trio, of course, Corvettes. Then it's Anthony Kumpans, Celine, and then the Maseratis of Bertolini and Negrão. Alan Simonson still going for it, but still in 8th place. That's not the car we expected to come in first, really, is it?
Well, no, I don't know that they have any particular strategy for this car other than to get it to the finish and to get it up far enough into the pack to be a spoiler for the rest of the championship contenders. But it's going to be Matteo Bobby handing over to probably a fairly long stint in the middle, I think, by Pedro Lamy. Lamy has driven one of these Maseratis before. He was with the team in Spa, not this summer but this summer he drove with Labra, of course, and set pole position before the car was comprehensively stuffed in the morning warm-up by Steve Zacchia.
That's a technical term, is it?
Stuffed, yes.
It was up to its A-pillars in tyre barrier, as we saw here yesterday for the number 1 car of Bertolini. Cleared the leaves from 17, out goes Pedro Lamy. It doesn't really change much. Bertolini still P6, Negrão P7, and it was Bertolini's car I sort of thought might have a problem, might be coming in any moment, because it was suddenly snapped up by 2 cars, and I thought that there was a problem with it, but Bertolini stayed with it, and I think it was just he resisted the pressure for about as long as he could.
Yes, I think so. A little further down in GT2 we've still got Westbrook and Russo and Malucelli in that order, but it's a long gap between Richard Westbrook and and Russo. Here comes the Aston Martin up the inside and making his way back past Andy Negrão. They'd swap places the other way when Simonson had that slow lap a couple of laps ago. Bang up to speed again now. So I think he just got caught up in the train of traffic trying to get past Fabio Babini, and maybe had a half spin which cost him that time, but he's made his way back up to what would be his rightful place, and will now go off in search of the back end of Bertolini's Maserati. That car also back up to pace, so a bit of a mystery as to why it suddenly slowed and allowed 1, 2, 3 cars to jump him.
Well, it seems, as you say, to be back on the pace now, and also on the pace as we look at our leaderboard. We're coming up on the GT2 cars now, spread out all around the circuit. Richard Westbrook continues to lead this from Matthias Russo because the Corsa car pulled in for a pit stop. So Andrea Bertolini has just come under pressure now, or will come under pressure from this car, because Alan Simonson has found his way past the number 2 Maserati of Sandy Negrão. He's about to jump on the GT2 Porsche in front of him. That is Mark Lee, and they're all over the place. They're both there.
Yeah, that's Richard Westbrook with the red mirrors. He's just been lapped by the Maserati, and is now also just been lapped by the Aston Martin and the Negrão Maserati as well, so making way as he should for the quicker cars coming up behind him, but showing a clean pair of heels to everyone else in his own class. Bertolini back up onto pace and chasing down Anthony Kumpen. The Celine showing good speed both here and at Nogaro, but not able to translate the speed of the car into good track position at the end of the race.
Wendlinger has translated his whole position into track position though, as he's just cleared off from the green light, which was 14 minutes ago, and is now 5.7 seconds in front of Mike Hazeman. It seesaws a bit, and I think that's just traffic, but basically that's his lead. Hazeman is now about 9 seconds in front of his teammate, and then comes this little argument about who's going to be next.
Yes, and at the moment next is Anthony Kumpen, the Belgian driver in the Belgian team in the Celine, but behind him, and desperately wanting to get back up onto terms and score more points than the humble 3 he will get for 6th place, is Andrea Bertolini. Simonson making his way past another of the GT2 cars in his attempt to get back onto the back of the Maserati with whom we're now on board.
And it's scheduled for pit stop.
That's for Babini, handing over to Jamie Davies, whose red and white crash helmet it is, just getting into the car now, the Yeovil driver.
And Babini was what? He was 5th.
Yep, 5th in class
GT2 when he came in.
Yep. And that may just elevate Tim Mullen back up a place, and indeed Tony Wielander, who both of whom were not so very far behind.
Well, Tim Mullen's made one stop, but not a driver change, so that's a problem. That's a problem, and they will still have to change drivers twice. So Tim Mullen's place is a little bit artificial, and I think we'll see. Oh, this is interesting. Now in comes the number 6 Corvette, the number 5
Corvette. That's Marcel Fessler coming in.
We are 20 minutes, 18 minutes before the hour. That's quite an early decision in terms of petrol, but quite reasonable in terms of time on track and tyres.
Yes, I wonder if they will take the chance to get Jean-Denis Delatraz into the car for a shortish middle stint before handing over to Fessler for an absolute flyer to the flag, at which he absolutely excels.
Jean-Denis Delatraz not quite as fast in his car as Marcel Fessler, but we have both been so impressed with him this year as Westbrook hands over to Collard from the lead of GT2. So we are pretty much smack on everybody's selected window, aren't we?
Yep, I think so. Collard was not with us at Nogaro, was drawn into the Penske Porsche team to run prototypes at Petit Le Mans. This is the stop for the GMAX sponsored Corvette of Phoenix Car Sport.
A little bit of a struggle getting that front wheel into the wheel arch, and it's little things like that that help Maserati. Because, and the touch between Davis and Simonson as the GT1s continue their way through, and just seems to be bad luck. Scuderia Cost has been caught right in the middle of this every time it's happened at that corner.
Yeah, and they've having just had a pit stop, of course. Jamie Davis has got a welcome back to the track from 2 of the GT1 cars muscling their way past. Neither of them willing to be held up through those corners. Wendler still has it though, and is currently by some margin the fastest of the top half dozen cars, because at the moment he's running in clear air, others are encountering traffic, and it's a bit of a seesaw job. Some you win, some you lose, but consistently Wendlinger has been able to stay well ahead of Mike Hazelman's. Mike Hazelman's turning in very similar laps, but not able to improve on the times of the Aston Martin ahead of him.
And here comes this same train. It's Kumpen, it's Bertolini, it's Madsen, it's Simonsen, it's De Graaf again.
And he's lost.
Madsen keeps doing that.
Lost that.
He's lost a couple of places.
He's lost several. He's lost the corner. He just saw the back stepping out under braking there. The front not turning in at all. Not really scrubbing off enough speed to get the car turned in, and that's cost him a lot of places down to the back of that group.
And still trailing a little bit of dust and smoke. And tempting to say, well, that was the best of your times, but is he going to puncture? Is that what it's all about? I think, is he down on the ground on that side? Watch the back go here. It kicks out towards our left. He's on the grass from this point onwards. But that, no, I don't know. That doesn't look punctured to me.
Can't see one at the moment, but certainly the car not wanting to turn in at all, and that will prompt them to bring the car in. Christophe Bouchou shaking his head saying, no, I have more work to do now.
Yes, Bouchou, and that seems to be sitting all right now. It's just when we saw it again after that moment, and it does seem to be trailing a little bit of smoke from this side, but it does seem to have all its wheels round.
I wonder if that was smoke or whether it was liquid. Coming out from the front.
And that's why he lost it. That could be a little bit of radiator, a little bit of oil smoke perhaps.
Well, no doubt the team will investigate as the car comes into pit lane, which it does just as we speak.
Masson then in a spot of bother and having to do a whole half a lap as a recovery from the tail end of GT1. Everybody's gone past him. It's Wendlinger, Hazelman, Kumpen, Bertolini, Simonsen, De Graaf, Frankie, and then Lopez, the ACA Argentina Ferrari, as Christophe Bouchou is strapped in. And there doesn't seem to be any concern, does there, over the car? The cloud of smoke there for Frankie.
The Celine has been a very quick car for Labre Competition since it's been rebuilt to its full width, which it was anything but. And again Bertolini flashing the lights at Kumpen as he tried to dive down the inside on the first element of that chicane, but successfully held off once again by the local man.
He is nice and close though, and Bertolini will be thinking now is his opportunity. And remember what we've said so many times before this season, the Maseratis are much kinder to their tyres than the Corvettes especially, and late in a stint is when you see the Maseratis looking very strong on their Michelins, don't they? They seem to be able to turn in much more easily, and it does have a problem, doesn't it?
Yep, it looks like it. It just had that look about it as though there was something coming out of the bottom of the car, which I think was a liquid rather than the smoke.
And liquid on the back tyres would account for the fact that it suddenly stepped out, didn't it?
Yep. Yeah. So it's furious spannering going on by the SRT team, and furious driving going on by Andrea Bertolini, still in pursuit of Anthony Kumpen. Alan Simonsen now right back in the mix again, and being sandwiched between two Vitaphone cars, with Andy De Graaf still aboard number 2, and Greg Franchi towing up in the Labre Competition car into the back of all of them. Lopez into the pits meanwhile in the 37 ACA Argentina car, which will hand over to Martin Basso. They've been doing a little bit of musical chairs in the driving seat of this car, but I think it's probably the most successful combination this weekend.
And again
Bertolini's there, and again we just saw a little squirrely moment for the Celine under braking for that corner, and couldn't get turned in without first letting Bertolini through. That's allowed Simonsen to carry on as well. He's got more momentum. Can he carry that momentum through into the corner? He's up alongside. He's going to turn in later, and at last Kumpen has given best, decided it's become an uneven struggle and has turned into the pit lane.
As our
race leader, Carl Wendlinger. There's the diminutive frame of Ryan Sharp looking to get in. They'll be putting the blocks on the pedals and the big cushion behind his back to get him to fit. And the fuel going in alongside that. As soon as the fueling is finished, then they can jack the car up and get the and get the wheels changed as well. Fresh set of Michelin shod alloys going onto the car, and they work remarkably quickly. These crews are home to perfection. They practice and practice and practice. Nothing more frustrating for a driver who's been pairing hundredths of seconds off a lap time to find tenths and a whole second perhaps lost in a wheel change, as away goes Ryan Sharp.
And interestingly, Mike Hazeman is in pit lane as well. Bertolini is still out there and will inherit the lead next time around unless he decides to come in before he reaches the timing beam at the end of the straight. Kumpen, as you saw, has come in, handing over to Bert Longin, and that punts Simonson up the leaderboard as well.
And sadly, that's the SRT car about to be pushed back into its garage, which means they've got a legacy from something that's happened out on the track, which has caused them to bring the car in. It did look as though there was a fluid leak, and if that's causing them to go back into the garage, it's either because it's terminal or because they want to work with more people on the car than they are allowed to in pit lane.
And that means it's got quite a lot to do. And was that the Maserati heading in towards the pit, or did it make the turn? No, it made the turn. Here is the scheduled stop for Tim Mullen to hand over to the young Mr. Sutton, who makes his debut appearance now in the FIA GT Championship.
Yep.
And of course he's already helped this team to the British Teams Championship.
Yes, the number 3 car, we're told, was overheating because of fan belt breakage, so maybe they've managed to fit that or fix that before it become crucial for the engine's temperature management. However, still crucial is what's going to happen to this car. Zanni Negrao currently up in 3rd place, Simonson 2nd, and Bertolini, front of your picture. This is the lead trio because none of these have yet made their first pit stops.
So that very close battle that we saw for the last 50 minutes has now been diffused by the need for petrol and tyres, and in some cases water as well. But let's see if we can find out Xavier Masson down in the pit lane and find out exactly what happened to that car.
Xavier, is this an early retirement, or will you be able to get the car back out onto the track?
Well, for me it's a retirement. In the end, we might be able to go back on track, but it's no use. We're a couple of laps behind, so yeah, really disappointing.
So, thank you, Xavier.
Oh, well, if you run it without a fan belt, as you know, it can produce terminal damage. This is Ryan Sharp and looking to maintain the lead which Carl Wendlinger established with that car, and it was not a big one, remember, over Mike Hazeman, just a handful of seconds, but it's Fabrizio Collins in the car now, and we'll have to let them unscramble their times.
Oh,
and he's off.
Sharp's gone off, he's just nudged into the tyres, and I don't know if that was a problem with the car or whether he simply outbraked himself because the tyres are still a bit cold. Find reverse quickly if you can, Ryan, and get the car back out of those tyres and back onto the track. This is costing them dear, but who's gone into the lead? It's Fabrizio Gollin, and it wasn't pressure from Gollin that caused that, it was just mounting the curbs, I think, and destabilising the car before the left-hand element of the corner. Couldn't get the car settled down and turned in, and just nudged into the tyres. I don't think that will have damaged the Aston Martin other than to have damaged its place on the track. A lot of dirt being blown off the corner of the front splitter there. But other than that little winglet being trashed, I think they've got away with that one.
Yes, he's just done a bit of ploughing with the dive planes, hasn't he? Otherwise it looks okay. And I think you're right, Graham. Cold tyres, cold driver, bit of pressure from, or perceived pressure from Gollin, and just a little bit too hot through the Villeneuve chicane, and that is the result. So, and that means that I'm sure that they are going to drop at least a handful of places, and might even, he chose not to come into the pits. He's obviously had a drive-by and a chat on the radio with the team to see what everybody thinks, and they've obviously taken the decision to stay out there. But I think that was Carl Wendlinger walking out the back, wasn't it?
Walking out the back, going to lie down with a damp flannel over his face for half an hour before he jumps back into the car to try and do a recovery drive back up to the head of the field, and that should be something to watch when it happens. In the meantime, no, head of the field is still owned by Bertolini. As I speak, his teammate Negrao comes in from what was 3rd place, which will now go back to Fabrizio Gollin, and Jean-Denis Delatraz, having taken over from Marcel Fessler, means that when the cars ahead of them take their pit stops, it'll be a 1-2 for the Phoenix Car Sport team. Exactly what they wanted.
And exactly what this team, of course, didn't want. They wanted to pack the podium and seal their titles here in Belgium, and at the moment it's looking very much as if it's going to go the other way, and we're going to have a very close fight to take with us to the brand new circuit of San Luis in Argentina for our final round. This is the race leader, but he hasn't stopped. Bertolini will hand over to Michael Bartels, and then they mustn't stop again. So although he's running long and deep, as we've seen the Maseratis do, and he's using track time to make time, it's still not going to help him, because ultimately he has to stop again.
And there is Alan Simonson, a scant 1.5 seconds behind Bertolini and chasing him down as the fuel load unwinds on all of these cars. It'll be absolute flyers of laps into the pit stops, trying to maximise their potential of running the car light in these last moments of the first hour. We've got 54 minutes gone pretty much, and no sign yet of these two cars heading pitward.
Well, we've seen them, the Maseratis especially, run beyond an hour just, and it's a tyre issue that brings the Corvettes in as early as they come, I think, as the number 95 car, which was the leader, now will not be the leader in GT2.
No, Luis Perez Companc taking over that car from his Argentine co-driver Matthias Russo, but they came in from the lead. That will go back now to Matteo Malucelli for the time being.
But Malucelli's made a pit stop, so that's a genuine first place. Wielander is currently in second place and Collard is in third.
Here's Alan Simonson still thundering around in the Gigawave Aston Martin, and closing up again a little bit last time round on Bertolini. Here's a replay of a GT2. Not a replay, rather a flash into GT2, where we've got 77 Paolo Roberti right up on the back of, is that the 95
62.
car? Or is that, no, it's 62, isn't it? It's a Scuderia Recost car.
So remember, their pit stops are out of sync, so this is not necessarily position,
I think it is. I think Roberti's had a stop which hasn't yet been caught up with on timing and scoring, and that's dropped him behind the 62 car. So I think you're going to see next time round that Wielander, yes, Wielander comes through in the lead of the class with the Collard up next, and then Jamie Davies.
So the battle for second place in this championship continues, and of course it lies between the man in second place there, Paolo Roberti and his teammate, and Richard Westbrook, who is watching this little struggle from the pit wall, having started the Pro Speed Porsche and handed it over to Emmanuel Collard. A little bit of a scary moment there for both of them.
And Matthias Russo has made his way past Jamie Davies and up into a genuine third place in class. So Wielander, Collard, Russo, Davis and Roberti, it is the top 5 in GT2.
And through goes Jamie Davis to take the place back again, out towards turn 4, the canal in the background, and turning back on to the pit straight. There's a little bit of an opportunity for some slipstreaming here, and another braking opportunity going into this chicane. This is where we saw Xavier Masson go off just now, but I think Jamie Davis has sorted that one out very nicely, and in fact I think that we've got someone in the queue to come past as well, haven't we?
Paolo Roberti.
So Wielander, Collard, Russo, well it won't be Russo now, it'll be Jamie Davis in third place.
Yeah, and then Companc, as Matthias Russo has handed over to Luis Perez Companc, although that hasn't yet been picked up on the timing system. Maybe they've not managed to drop the driver ID tag into the slot provided on the car. Fastest race lap to date by Vincent Voss, who has now taken over the La Competition car in GT1 from Greg Franchi, and immediately does a 27.4.
And we have a replay here of the Aston Martin G2 going very wide indeed. Stefan Mucker just keeping it off the barriers. They've been in the wars this weekend.
They've had an interesting afternoon thus far, haven't they? Yes, it wasn't quite what Aston Martin had in mind when they said they were bringing this car testing to the last few rounds of the FIA GT, running in the G2 Championship. As someone just out of camera shot there was having a lock-up moment. You can see very clearly now the damage to the front of the car from that turn 1 of lap 1 incident with the CR Scuderia car of Andrew Kirkcaldy.
And eventually Thomas Biaggi as well. And this is the man who's just set the fastest lap, was Graham said, 1:27.4. But Andrea Bertolini is still leading the race and the class. This is not a scheduled stop, is it?
No, it isn't. This is out of sync, certainly. Bert Longin already having been in to do his driver change from Anthony Kumpen, and it looks as though they've got a problem which is immensely frustrating for the local team. They, of all teams here, were hoping to do particularly well at their home track, and it's been Bert Longin's birthday this week as well.
And his fan club's out in force around the circuit, which we have observed on several occasions. Bertolini continues to lead it though. Simonson still in second place, and those two are the only people on the timing and scoring screens who have not yet made a pit stop of any kind. Ryan Sharp back on the pace in the 33 car. This is where it all went wrong, no problem this time around, but he's got a lot of work to do because he ended up in 6th place after that from the lead.
And he's chasing down Miguel Ramos, who's now in the car, started by Alessandro Negrão. That's the car in 5th place, and Ryan Sharp immediately behind him in 6th, recovering from that half spin.
So Ryan Sharp 6th and on the pace. Michael Bartels is waiting for Bertolini to bring the number 1 car in, and somewhere Philip Peter must be waiting for Alan Simonson to bring number 10 in. They are 1st and 2nd on the leaderboards, but they owe us a pit stop. So our effective race leader at the moment is Fabrizio Golin. Jean-Denis Delatre's teammate is in 2nd place. Miguel Ramos will be 3rd when the leading 2 stop. And here's one of them already.
Yep, here is Alan Simonson bringing the car in to hand over to the Sato Austrian Philip Peter, who will do the middle stint. We just saw the other Aston Martin in the field of Ryan Sharp taking a little time to get past James Sutton, who's the British GT Drivers' Champion for CR Scuderia, and who's sharing with Tim Mullen this weekend. But we're on board with Alan coming into his pit now. The Dane hugely swift in this car, and Philip Peter no slouch himself, but probably not quite of the outright speed of Alan Simonson. We'll wait and see if he can prove me wrong.
So Bertolini is the only one who hasn't stopped. He's still out there stringing it out for a long time, but we've seen Michael Bartels suited, booted and ready to go. That's the other end of the pit lane, and wheel change now as soon as the fuel hose is off.
And we've also seen time after time, although we're looking at the Aston Martin stop and switching up to the Maserati on track, just how much time the Vitaphone team can make up in a routine pit stop, simply because they are so well drilled at doing it.
Like everyone else has been practicing pit stops. You see them in the pit lane every evening. All the teams practice, and there is no substitute for time on the stopwatch. In comes what was the race leader.
Quite a long pit entry and exit here at Zolder.
And Andrea Bertolini not undoing the belts at all there.
And coming to rest in the first pit stalls in the pit lane, which are the ones that they always favour. Michael Bartels eager to get on with the job. Piles in feet first into the cramped cockpit of the Maserati. You get a clean of the screen, absolutely essential that you can see where you're going.
Sometimes that doesn't seem to make a lot of difference, but still it's always worth having a clean screen.
Nice.
They used to have tear-offs, didn't they? Maserati had screen tear-offs. They're hugely expensive things, £400 or £500 a pop, and it's a lot cheaper to have a little can of spray and a piece of cheesecloth.
Yeah, I think it's something they would use more typically in the 24 hours of Spa rather than in the sprint races here, but although we have seen them there. Away goes Michael Bartels, team principal. Up onto the back of this Maserati now has come Ryan Sharp, and looking for a way past Miguel Ramos. He's going to try and push him into an error, not physically, but mentally, if you like.
Well, he's got a lot of work to do, and with Bertolini out of it, Golin will lead from Delatre's, and then Ramos, and then Sharp. So he's gained 2 places when this car and the number 1 Maserati made their scheduled pit stops. So it's not as disastrous for Sharp and Wendlinger as it looked, but we have already seen how hard it is to overtake anyone here, especially someone who doesn't really want to be overtaken.
No, that caption showing us the situation just before the number 1 came in for its stop. This is the battle on the track for 4th position, and Ryan Sharp again showing the whole width of the Aston Martin in the mirrors of the Maserati, but not being fazed by that. Miguel Ramos holds his line, takes the braking as late as he can into the chicane, and flies off down the gradient towards the next little chicane, the Villeneuve at the back of the circuit there. little dip on the way in, helping to unsettle the car, make it more difficult to turn into the left-hand element, and they're off round this long right-hander past the campsite.
Ryan Sharp, a little bit of damage on the front quarter there, but not enough to worry him or the car. Yet another of the chicanes here, 4 of them, remember, on this racetrack. And then the final little kink before the pit lane entrance and onto the start-finish straight for another lap, by which time timing and scoring has updated itself. Colin Delatraz, and then it says Bartels still, but I'm not sure that that's going to be right.
Yeah, I think it might well be, actually, because again they've stealthed some time in their pit stop. They really are very good at that indeed, and they've done that by getting in and out quicker, particularly than Philip Peters' number 10 car, the Gigawave team, although very proficient in their own way, have dropped down to 6th place at the moment in this last lot of pit stops. So work to be done by Philip Peter. Ryan Sharp is already hard at work trying to find his way past Miguel Ramos to make up for his indiscretion in going off the course early in the stint. This is the leader, Fabrizio Collin, making his way past the 77 car of Paolo Roberti, who's currently 4th in GT2 behind Jamie Davies.
That's an awful lot of stealthing, isn't it?
It's serious amounts of stealthing, but they're
really,
very good at it.
We keep saying they're very slick in their pit stops and everybody practices theirs, and I think one of the things that we've seen lately that seems to have become evident is that it's actually easier to get in and out of a Maserati than it is to get in and out of a Corvette. You can lose 2 or 3 seconds right there.
Yes, I think part of the problem with the Corvette is their refueling hole on the side of the car is right alongside the door. And Ryan Sharp, oh, great move by Ryan Sharp. Miguel Ramos getting himself just out fumbled slightly in lapping a slower car, and Ryan Sharp saw that, took advantage of it straight away, and he's able to just about out accelerate the Maserati through the long-ish start-finish straight and down into turn 1. So good job by Ryan Sharp, who's vindicated himself from his earlier mistake and made his way back past Miguel Ramos in the number 2 car. He'll now be looking for Michael Bartels as his next victim, but Bartels last time round lapping quicker than anyone around him. Here's a replay.
Good work on the brakes by Ryan Sharp, and quick reactions as well. And as you so rightly said, Ramos came back at him here, but there is no way after that the Ryan Sharp is going to give up that place. If he had to pick it up and run with it, he would have got away from.
Yeah, no, that was a question, I think, of Ramos being distracted by the Ferrari going into the pit lane ahead of him, and just not quite getting the turning point right, leaving it just a fraction of a second late, and opening the door just far enough to Ryan Sharp to stick both boots into it and get the Aston Martin well and truly ahead. He's now off in pursuit of Michael Bartels and pulling away from Ramos at a rate of knots.
Look how much quicker that Aston Martin is now it's been freed, and how easy. Oh look, there's a car on Ryan coming into the pit lane, is it? No, it's
That's
not.
Henri Moser's Kessel Racing car, and Moser it is, I think, still at the wheel.
And it's definitely on fire at the back, and it's gone away from a pit stop with the fuel hose attached, and that's what the problem is.
Yeah, that's probably not right, is it? In which case it's their final stop, which means it's Marcello Zani who's taken over again. I wonder if that is a question of Zani being a bit ring rusty, having not had a race for some while, certainly not a race in this series, as in comes the G2. Oh dear, oh dear.
So it's the pit lane exit, not the pit lane entrance there, and that's fireball there, I think, is more or less gone out. Hopefully that's just petrol on the surface of the car.
Yes, it may well be that if the fuel hose wasn't retracted properly, that the self-sealing valve wasn't properly closed either, and it looks as though that fuel cap is damaged and maybe losing fuel as well, which should, I think, cause the stewards to black flag him and bring him in for a mechanical check over.
You'd sort of think the team would be on the phone about now saying, a bit of a problem, would you mind coming back?
I hope so, wouldn't you? And yet it doesn't always happen. Jamie Davies puts in his car's fastest lap in pursuit of Emmanuel Collard. He's now up into 3rd place ahead of Paolo Roberti.
It is damaged, look.
Yes, and
it's not there, is it?
It's just not venting, is it? It's just, or it is venting rather. So fuel coming out, but the team have not called him in, Richard.
No.
Point made.
Colin Delatraz Bartels, and it was, as you say, actual conjuring in the pit lane, was it? Prestidigitation is what they've done.
Good.
And somehow or other the number 1 Maserati is in 3rd place. Target for tonight Jean-Denis Delatraz, who is at the moment separated, as you can see, by a little bit of GT2 traffic.
Yeah, Delatraz putting in a quicker lap that time to just stretch the gap by half a second between himself and Bartels. The number 2 car of Ramos having just momentarily been held up behind to the 78 car of Joel Camathias, as in comes the Kessel Racing car. This team have really been off pace all weekend. I don't know what's been ailing them, but they haven't been a happy crew here at Zolder this weekend, and now they're a desperately unhappy team, because not only have they now got a broken fuel filler on that car, they've lost about half a tank's worth of fuel as well. You know what that costs?
It's a fortune, isn't it? Even if you buy it from your local supermarket pumps. The giveaway car just goes storming past the G2s and the GT2s, and that's the difference between GT1 and a whole lot of money, and GT2 and not quite such a whole lot of money.
And proof that you can just about get 3 cars side by side on this Zolder track. But now a clear track between himself and Miguel Ramos. Interesting to see how quickly, if he can indeed, the Philip Peter can get the gap down between himself and Ramos. Just going out of shot there, and there he is, the turquoise colours just appearing in the corner of the picture. AF Corsa, that is, I think, bringing one of their cars in, or is it the 37 car? No, it is AF Corsa, there we go. It's the leader in GT2, Tony Vielander, already crowned champion with Jimmy Bruni, bringing the car in for its second mandatory driver change and stop. There is Bruni strapping himself in. That means the lead will go back to Porsche in the shape of Manu Collard for the moment.
48 minutes on the clock. We've got a long way to go here in Zolder, and Golin and Delatraz are separated at the front by 11 seconds. After that, it's 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 1 second. It's still very close after almost an hour and a quarter of racing here.
Ramos's problem is that he's the first one to come up against any slower traffic, and this time it's the number 60 Porsche, currently in the hands of Marcus Baltala, having taken over from Mark Lieb. He's now cleared that car, but you see how much closer Simonton's car, now driven by Philip, is. We've got erstwhile leader Andrea Bertolini, who's down in the pits. Michael Bartels in the car at Andrea, having a word with Haley.
Andrea, you had an unfortunate incident in qualifying, but you certainly had a fantastic stint today.
Yes, fortunately all the guys, all the team did a really good job tonight. A lot of work, we repaired the car, and the car worked very well. It's difficult because we start with full tank, but at the moment all is under control. I think in the final stint it's really difficult. Good show.
Good luck. Thank you, Andrea.
Whatever he said, I'm sure it's very interesting, but absolutely drowned out by the thunder of these cars. The Corvettes in particular have a big bass note going on with their V8s, and the GT2 Ferraris have the absolute corker of a snarl when they're on full chat going down the pit.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we're seeing that Marcello Zani won't be making it back out again. The Kessel team clearly not able to fix that broken fuel filler, and Michael Bartels now caught up behind the I think it was the ACA Argentina car.
Not anymore.
Yep, not anymore. Been and gone. The 550 Maranello is still a very pretty car, but getting a bit long in tooth. However, a very good showpiece for our race at San Luis in November.
Yes, last round of the year will be in Argentina, and Michael Bartels wanted to go there, I think, as a newly crowned drivers and teams champion, but at the moment his wish is not coming true.
Ryan Sharp put in an absolute corker last time round of 27.9, where we only had a 30.2 from Bartels, so Ryan Sharp taking a huge chunk, in fact halving the gap between himself in 4th place and Michael Bartels in 3rd. This is the lead battle currently in GT2, with Emmanuel Collard being caught by the Scuderia Cost car of Jamie Davis, the Pirelli shod car making up good time this race, and this is another team, Stuart Roden's crew, who deserve a result. They've had a scant reward for a lot of hard work this season.
But at the moment they are holding up Michael Bartels, and that has allowed Ryan Sharp to get right on his tail. Look, he is almost touching the back end of the Maserati. Now you'll see the Maserati put its power down. Jamie Davis moves out of the way. Through he goes. The question is, will Ryan Sharp be able to go with him? Yeah, he's absolutely glued to it, isn't he?
Back, isn't he? And both of these two putting in laps last time round considerably quicker than Jean-Denis Delatraz ahead of them. Fabrizio Gollin's got a comfortable 13-second lead now ahead of his Phoenix Carsport teammate. Delatraz, as we said at the outset, perhaps not quite on the same pace as his teammate Mosel Fesler, and the proof of the pudding seems to be in the timing screens, in as much as this little pairing who are just passing the GT2 leader Manu Collard, and that, I wonder if that will give Ryan Sharp the opportunity to try and outbrake. No, he can't quite, but they've both got past Collard safely, which is the first important thing. That time by Delatraz has dropped him now only 3 seconds shy of this battle for third place currently, which could end up being a battle for second. Collard just locking up in his attempts to stay ahead of Jamie Davis, who's having a great outing in the Scuderia Coscar.
But don't forget that Collard and I believe Jamie Davis also owe us a pit stop.
Oh, yes.
And of course the 50 car of Bruni doesn't. It's made its second stop, so there's a little bit of a shakedown to be had there, and this may not turn out to be the battle for the lead after all in GT2 when that second round of pit stops occurs. But the battle up front that has just passed them by is the battle for the championship as much as anything else. Bartels currently in third place, Ryan Sharp in fourth place, but ahead is Delatraz, reachable by Bartels if he can get his skates on. Delatraz, of course, his job to hold off the Maserati and keep his team leader free to collect maximum points here, and hopefully deny Bartels a podium spot if they can.
And you know that everybody down at the Phoenix pit will be shouting on Ryan Sharp to try and make his way past Michael Bartels and to take away a podium finish altogether from the Maserati.
Well, I don't think Ryan Sharp needs very much encouragement. Blotted the copybook just ever so slightly on his out back from the pits after he took it over in the lead from Carl Wendlinger. But he's been unblotting it fairly consistently ever since. And here's Marcello Zani with Haley. Let's find out what happened.
Marcello, you had success here last year, but unfortunately it's not going to be the way for you.
Yeah, for the race the car was quite good. We was not so far from the podium, but unfortunately we got a radio problem. So when I was on the pit there was a misunderstanding. I can see nothing on the radio. Someone told me to start, so I immediately started the car, but there was the refueling system put still on the car, so some fuels goes off and burn, so I need to come in and the race is finished.
Thank you, Marcello.
So it does sound very much as if they were going for a no tyre change on their second stop, and they gave him the signal to go while he was still plugged in, and this was the result.
And a miscommunication caused that refueling problem where the hose was still on board when Zani pulled away, and the lead battle in GT2 for the moment at least is this one you're looking at on screen. Jamie Davis towing right up onto the back of Manu Collard's Pro Speed Porsche, and in the process both of them are now being caught by another Maserati.
At the moment though, Gollin leads GT1 and the race by just under 13 seconds from his teammate, who's now 4 seconds clear of Michael Bartels. So Delatraz has picked up the pace a bit, and you can see why this has been holding up the Maserati boys, and it's now holding up the second Maserati. This is where Michael Bartels got mired in before, and it opened up a little bit of a gap. But it's Gollin, Delatraz and Bartels in GT1, Collard, Davies and Ruberti in GT2, but don't forget, and a touch, and off goes Collard, and Davies as well.
Touching him up the back. I wonder if Jamie just missed his braking point there, and it just went straight into the back of Collard. Now that looks as though one was coming into the pits and the other one wasn't, and they've had a miscommunication. Jamie Davis has pulled into
pit lane. Is that what you call it?
And and Collard having to wait desperately to rejoin the circuit as the Maserati heads round. That happened just on pit in, and this is what happened. Collard looked to be perhaps just watching his mirrors for the Maserati and slowing rather more than Jamie Davis anticipated. Jamie Davis electing to come into the pits straight away, and Fabio Borini is ready to take over, so it'll be interesting to have a word with Jamie afterwards, get his version of that one.
Well, it certainly favoured the 62 car there, because if Collard has got a problem, he's got a whole lap to do before he comes in again. And of course, he's lost a bunch of time. Ruberti goes past him on the leaderboard, Peltala goes past him on the leaderboard, but the important one, of course, was the number 50 car already made its second stop. And so I think the lead of this race has just dropped into AF Corsa's hands again.
Pretty much looks that way, doesn't it? And, I don't know who can fight them back with that one. This is now Collard on a recovery drive, which wasn't what he expected at all. He'll be desperately disappointed. Big lock-up for somebody there.
Clouds of smoke, and I don't think it was Collard. There was somebody else behind who had to get out of the way really quickly. Emmanuel Collard actually got it across him now. Got a big way, hasn't he?
Yeah, looks as though the car behind had a real problem, because it's not staying in frame at all. Collard will now have a real red mist down over his eyes. That's the car that was in problems.
Well, that looks like a retirement for that car. He's got a long way to go to crawl back to the pit lane. Not quite sure what's wrong with Martin Basler's Ferrari, but it's obviously on its way back to a parking spot.
And just making it in the pit lane.
Wow, that all happened, didn't it? Incident between 61 and 62 under investigation, it says on the bottom of our screen. I don't think you'll investigate much out of that. It was just one of those things, and it might have changed the look of the race and the championship as well. So Collard immediately brings it in to hand over to Westbrook and for a check-up. That's the common sense thing to do at this point in the proceeding. Team having a look round at the back, but I don't think it was really any problem. It's just that he got spun off.
Yeah, I think you can almost guarantee that Collard's take will be that he got absolutely speared by Jamie Davies and wasn't his fault at all, and that Jamie Davies' view will be that Collard anchored up much too quickly. No tyres been taken on that Pro Speed Porsche second
despite
stop.
The spin. He did have a little bit of a rotation, didn't he? Although a lot of it was on the
fairly
grass.
low speed, and as you say, Richard, much of it on the grass. Car retaking to the circuit now. Richard Westbrook back at the wheel and will be eager to make up time to try and get another strong finish. Ryan Sharp makes his way past what is now Fabio Babini in the Ferrari,
and in comes the number 5 car, and this means we'll get our final shake-up at the front of the field, and we'll have a look at exactly how things are going to be as we head towards the last half an hour or so of this race.
Collins' last lap a fairly slow 1:31. Those behind him doing 28s and 29s. And Delatraz and Sharp had been nose to tail for some number of laps. And handing over now to Marcel Fessler, and we've got a treat in store for the last 37.5 minutes as Fessler heads off onto the track to try and restore Corvette honour.
Meanwhile, Ryan Sharp is still tucked up behind Michael Bartels, and they both owe us their second stop, so that has to unscramble. And there is Ryan Sharp. There is Fabio Babini, and which one of the Pro Speed cars? It is in fact 61 behind, so they've both made a pit stop. So the net result of that little tangle is that Jamie Davis and Fabio Babini have got clear. Let's find out how Jamie Davis viewed it though.
Jamie, an unfortunate incident with car number 61. Can you explain how it occurred?
Well, I don't think it was anyone's fault, but the problem was the GT1 was coming on the inside of me, and I think also Manuel Collard was looking at the GT1 in the mirror as well, but concentrating maybe more on the GT1 going on the inside than me behind. I was on my way into the pit, and obviously normally the Porsche would have turned into the corner, but he didn't turn into the corner and just continued to slow down, and I'm entering the pit and couldn't stop because he basically never turned left for the corner, so I hit him at the back. But I think we lost a little bit of time, but I kept the engine running and managed to turn the car around quite quickly, so hopefully not too much damage since we were coming in anyway. So the car felt fine. As I pulled away, everything seems to be in the right direction, so I don't think there's going to be a problem.
Now here car number 61 is under investigation.
I haven't heard that, but I mean, it seems a bit strange to me because, I mean, at the end of the day, I was just running on the right-hand side of the road to come in, and he just stopped in front of me, and I couldn't stop, so...
Well, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
The thing about all of this is that when you're a race driver, and here it is again, you have to rely on the person in front of you doing what you expect him to do.
Yes.
And when he doesn't, this sort of thing can be the result. However,
There's a degree.
if you hit someone up the boot, it's pretty much your fault, isn't it?
Well, normally, yes. It is usually seen that way, certainly in civil transactions on motorways, as
Yes.
you were saying earlier. And it just brings home that point of how very closely these cars do follow, and that the reaction times available to avoid an incident like that are nil, frankly.
Yes, and I mean, Jamie Davis is right. You saw it first. Collard was trying to keep out of the Maserati's way, as in comes Ryan Sharp to hand over to Carl Wendlinger. But if everybody does what they're expected to do, everybody else knows what to do. And the minute you do something that no one was expecting, it all goes horribly wrong. 62 apparently is
Jamie
going to get
Davis.
a drive-through penalty for tapping Collard up the boot. But that won't, although that might penalise Jamie Davis and Fabio Babini for what they've done wrong, what it won't do is make up what's lost for Collard and Westbrook.
No, and nothing can make that up. That's just a fact of life. Unfortunately, we've seen Ryan Sharpin handing over to Carl Wendlinger, so watch for the Jet Alliance Aston Martin to fly in this last session as well. We've got just about 35 minutes left, and they will be looking for a repeat of their win last time out. There is the legacy of that contact between Jamie Davies and Manu Collard.
Well, let's have a look at the GT2 leaderboard at the moment. Paolo Ruberti is looking good, but owes us a pit stop.
That's for his mother's Parfella.
And yes, Paolo 2, and then the 95 also. So the top three in GT2 all owe us their final pit stop. So it's Bruni, and then at the moment it's James Sutton, who I think
Also
owes us a pit stop, yeah. And Babini, and then Westbrook. So we've got a little bit of shaking out to do in GT2 before we get a clear picture of what's happening. But I think we were right. Net result is it's a good day for AF Corsa at the races yet again.
Yes, and when all of that unwinds, we should find that Richard Westbrook comes back up into second place behind Jimmy Bruni, because Babini ahead of him has got this drive-through penalty to do. That'll cost him at least that place, and the three cars between them and the head of the field at the moment are all owing us pit stops for driver changes.
So it's Bruni who will be the leader, and there he is on the left of your picture, just winding his way past the number 95. And
That's the position. So that's now a genuine third place for Jimmy Bruni before Luis Perez Companca's even made his pit stop.
how do they do it? It's going to be my question.
We'll see. I'll never tell you. I wonder if we will see a repeat of the Nagaro scenario, where the 50 AF Corsa car, being a fair bit heavier, came under severe pressure on its tyres towards the end of the race, with the result that Westbrook and co were all able to file past him on the last couple of laps. That said, of course, Westbrook's car itself is now heavy with ballast following the success last time.
And a little bit of a question mark, perhaps, having been slapped up the back fairly hard, well, hard enough to spin it off anyway, by the 62 Scuderia Cross car. Fabrizio Collin is in the pit lane. Michael Bartels is showing us the race leader. How did they do that?
Well, they did that by having Delatraz come in to hand over to Fessler, and having Golin come in to hand over back to Mark Hazelmans. And it's going to be very, very tight at the top to see how all this works. Ramos, Philip Peter, Miguel Ramos and Duncan Voss all owe us pit stops for their respective charges. As Tim Mullen gets back in, James Sutton helping with the straps.
Just looking at the GT1 leaderboard, Michael Bartels is out there, as you say. He still owes us the stop. Colin's making his at the moment. Philip Peter has one to pay. Ramos has also got to do one.
Pedro Lamy has come in the third string Maserati. The systems enter car.
On board with Colin on his way out. Michael Bartels really needs to be banging in some very fast lappery at this point in time. He knows he can depend on a typically quick Maserati turnaround, which we've seen time and time again through the last couple of seasons. Their pit work is so slick that it should be filmed and studied by everybody in the pit lane. This is how to do it. But even so, Bartels could still do with some good lap times out there. And his sector at the moment, 29 and then 33. Quick, but it's not certainly not personal best or anywhere near best of the race so far.
No, that's Fabrizio Golin, having just taken a break from driving, handing back to Mike Hazelmans, who's car it is we're looking at on screen now. This is the pairing that really wants to win this race in order to force the championship battle down to the last time at Argentina.
Mike Hazeman and Fabrizio Golin need to be on the podium to make sure that it goes to the final round. But at the moment they're looking rather better than that, depending on how fast Maserati turns that number one car round in pit lane when Bartels brings it back in to hand over to Andrea Bertolini.
Yes, they had a fairly healthy lead, didn't they? Some 13 seconds or so earlier on, though that ideally they should, in an ideal world, they should have been quick enough in their pit stop to be able not to have lost all that. But we know that the Vitafone team are generally quicker than the Phoenix Carsport Holland team in the pits, for some reason unknown to us, other than this issue around the refueling hose being that little bit closer to the door and making access quite tricky.
So we saw Maserati go long in the first session.
This is the battle for fifth we're looking at, Richard, with Marcel Fessler coming up onto the back of Carl Wendlinger. Wendlinger only just out in the Aston Martin, of course, and Fessler fresh too to the Corvette. This should be a classic battle between a very experienced Carl Wendlinger and a hugely fast and eager Marcel Fessler.
And here is the number 10 car, Philip Peter, out on track, and Alan Simonson in pit lane with Haley.
Alan, you certainly seem to be fighting for that podium finish.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously pretty close. We've played our pit stops very late, so you know, once it's all playing out, we'll see where we are. But it's been a tough weekend, and we fought really hard, so let's hope it pays off.
Thank you, Alan.
And let's remember that their car, the Gigawave Aston, set the fastest time in qualifying, but was then penalised 10 places on the grid. So starting from 11th and currently running in second, although owing us a pit stop.
Maserati picks up speed out of the corner there and going over the crest of the hill down towards the Villeneuve chicane. Philip Peter looking for an opportunity because the car in front of him gets boxed in behind the 164 Aston Martin. This is Fessler right on the tail end of Carl Wendlinger now, and this will be interesting, as you say.
Yeah, this could be an absolute honey of a race to the very end now. We've got the three cars ahead, Bartels, Peter and Ramos all owing pit stops. Hazeman, Wendlinger and Fessler, the top three on merit, as it were, covered by about 8 seconds at the moment, and Fessler this far behind Carl Wendlinger in second place. Wendlinger the bulk of the 8 seconds behind Mike Hazeman's, but lapping quicker last time round.
Michael Bartels, as we said, Maserati ran long in the first session. They can run long here as well and try and go for just a splash and dash as Fessler closes right up under braking, and then Wendlinger gets the gas down and you get that seesaw effect. But the net result of that is he's a little bit closer. In fact, he's very close to it.
Fessler is a very rapid driver. Here comes the lead car. No, this is Ramos, isn't it? I'm so big pardon.
No, it's not.
This is the number 2 car. Miguel Ramos coming in to hand back to Zandy Negrão, the Brazilian driver. This team not yet having the best of weekends here. They didn't qualify particularly well, but they've managed to get their way, as they always do, up the leaderboard.
I thought that was Andrea Bertolini's crash helmet, but it wasn't. But what I was looking at was the floor. No tyres for the number 2 car.
No, I think a lot of teams are finding that they can, if they do a late stop, they can stretch the tyre life for the middle and final stints.
So expect a rapid turnaround for the number 1 car when Michael Bartels finally brings it in, and we've got 26 minutes remaining and plenty of time. He can go quite a lot further than this on the fuel he put in.
Slower car ahead of the 33 Aston Martin. This is the sort of opportunity that Fessler will be looking for. He'll want to be closer than that, though, because he always has the risk that rather than getting the blue Aston Martin ahead of him bottled up behind the slow car, it'll be he who gets separated by the slower car from his prey up ahead. The Aston looking pretty quick on the way down the slope and makes his way past the Scuderia and Cospa, but Babini tucks across the bows of the Corvette, and that separates, has threatened Fessler from the Wendlinger-driven Aston Martin, and he's got that work to do again, and he's still stuck behind the Ferrari.
He'll breeze past it as soon as he gets a bit of track. Now he's alongside already, and just thanking Babini very kindly for his assistance. Fabio Babini did what he was supposed to do. He did his stuff in the chicane and let everybody else sort themselves out, and that's what you're meant to do.
Yeah, there's not much choice really. So that car, the 62, having to have a drive-through, remember, so Fabio Babini back out of the pits, having had that mandatory stop go to pay the price for Jamie Davies over exuberance in coming into pit lane. May seem a little harsh, but as you said, Richard, if you run into the back of someone, that's pretty much your fault.
Yes, you're supposed to look out for the bloke in front of you, aren't you? And in comes BMS, our team of the week. How are we looking for second place in the championship? Not too bad at all at the moment.
Paolo Roberti coming in from an artificial lead, which will end up with us having the Jimmy Bruni Ferrari heading the two Pro-Speed Porsches when things settle down again.
Fast turnaround, that's what you're supposed to do, take the fuel hose off. That's what the Castle crew didn't quite get right.
That would be it. Here's the GT2 leader, pursued by Maserati, which is Michael Bartels, still showing in the lead, of course, because still owing us that final pit stop. And again, Jimmy Bruni not really giving any quarter there, was he? Wasn't going to make it easy for Bartels to make his way past.
And the lights flashing as Bartels lets Bruni know that he's coming through this time, and Bruni let it happen.
Philip Peter still in pursuit though in the Gigawave car, and the second and a half quicker last time through than Bartels. He's pared the gap down to 11 and a half. When Alan Simonson gets back in that car, if he has time, with only 24 minutes remaining on the clock to make an impression, then it should be a really good impression.
Job Mathias in the 78 BMS car in your picture now, and at the moment timing and scoring still shows Matteo Malicelli at the head of this field, and of course he's been in and done the final pit stop and will be replaced any moment now on timing and scoring, if you're watching it live on mstworld.com, by the number 50 car of Jimmy Bruni. There he is. They've done it again. How have they done that?
Yeah, they of course do just have the knack, don't they, of getting these 430s to run quicker than anybody else can. There's nobody's been able to live with them season long.
Doesn't matter how much weight you put on them, they still manage to run at the front of the field. Quite an extraordinary achievement by AF Corsa.
Already champions, as we said before, both in the drivers pairings with Bruni and Tony Wieland are taking that, and they of course are taking the team's title last time out in France.
23 minutes and a bit on our countdown. Michael Bartels and Philip Peter still out there owing us a pit stop, so it's Hazeman from Wendlinger and Fassler, third, fourth, second, I'll get this right, third, fourth and fifth, but effectively first, second and third when the pit stops have been paid, and that makes this fourth place the battle with Frankie pursuing Sandy Negrão, who is currently occupying what will be fourth place when this man here gets into the number one car.
Yep, and it looks as though he's going to do it later rather than sooner, doesn't it? No sign of him standing by out in the sunshine at the moment. He's still sitting in the depths of the garage. Michael Bartels shown there heading Philip Peter, with Mike Hazeman's in third place, and that is how it stands on the track at the moment. But remember, Bartels and Peter both have to come into the pits for their final mandatory stops. Greg Franchi is closing in on the back of Sandy Negrão. The gap is now less than a second between these two.
Well, of course, the Phoenix crew will be watching this with great interest, because what they want is to get between. And that's on fire, isn't it? The Vertigo.
Yep, that looks as though it might be a brake on fire in the wheel arch there.
We've seen that several times this year, and often in previous seasons, that the carbon dust can burst into flames. Normally driving along at speed blows it out again, but it's obviously not happening at the moment.
No,
and what of course you don't want for Renault Coupons is for this to escalate and set fire to anything plasticky, or worse still, petrol-y, that might actually burn freely of its own volition, but it does seem to be going out. No, there it goes again.
The Coupons still owes us a pit stop, so that would be a chance for them to put it
this
out.
Is it.
This is it.
Somebody with a bucket of water in the pit lane, please.
It might be something more sophisticated than a bucket of water, although that might do the job.
Now, you can understand he'll be undoing the seatbelts because he'll want out as fast as he can go.
Yes, his feet must be getting pretty warm by now, I should think, as that fire is happening right by the footwell. The car comes at mandatory speed limit up to its stop. And are they aware? Yes, they are. They've got a fire extinguisher ready. With a few bobs worth of that.
What you often see also is that if you run offline, you pick up on the marbles, the surface of the tyre actually gets coated with little lumps of rubber, and they can catch fire. Once they've caught fire in the wheel well, it takes quite a while to put them out. Why is this happening?
I'm not entirely sure. We had an indication that they had already done their stop-go, and it's tyres again now. That's interesting. They didn't do tyres at the regulation stop to hand over. Now they've been caught out because the Pirellis have not lasted, and Babinia said, I'm sorry, this is undrivable. I've got to have some fresh rubber to finish off. We've only got 20 minutes to go, but it's 20 minutes too long, and that doesn't look right. Get that seated on the locator pegs before you bang it in with the air hammer and send him on his way. So that's the cost of dear.
Yes, that's a stop-go penalty and an necessary but voluntary stop for tyres, and that will drop them right out of contention. And they were, if you remember, battling for the lead with Collard and Westbrook when it all started to go pear-shaped.
And we've ended up with Matteo Malicelli as off goes Alan Simonson. His car wreathed in tyre smoke, which may or may not impress the officials when they look at that as well. But Alan Simonson, it says, rejoining the track from what was second place with just 19 and a half minutes to try and make good his comeback drive and boost this car as far up the ratings as he can.
Michael Bartels is still out there. He's rejoined in 5th spot, I believe. So we'll wait and see how many places Michael Bartels drops when they make their mandatory pit stop.
So it will be Hazelman's in the lead from Wendlinger by about 5 seconds, with Marcel Fessler still a further second back, having had to recover. And Bartels finally comes into the pit lane for his final stop to hand back to Andrea Bertolini after 67 laps.
So it is at the moment Mike Hazelman from Carl Wendlinger, from Marcel Fessler, then Sandy Negrão, and then probably Alan Simonson. Where will Bartels be when he comes back out? That's the interesting.
I think Simonson may be ahead of the Negrão and Franchi battle, so he'll come out after Fessler, and in and out again already has come Bertolini. That's how quickly Vitaphone Maserati turned their car around, and a splash and a dash as well as the driver change. So good job again, and out they come to regain the track.
So I look round them and see he's behind the Aston Martin of Thomas Enger. There it is on track, and I'm not quite sure where that puts him in relation to Hazelman and Wendlinger and Fessler.
Well, Bertolini is going to be in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th place, I think, as he comes round at the end of the next lap. So has he managed to get ahead in that very quick stop?
Yes, he has. He's come out in front of the number 6 car.
That's very, very good going.
That's
more stealth.
That's witchcraft, that is. That's not just slick work in the pits. That was quite an extraordinary turnaround by Vitaphone Maserati, if that is what they've done. And they put Andrea Bertolini out in 1st place. He's just tremendous work, isn't it?
Just stunning work by Vitaphone Maserati. If they do end up winning this championship, and they can't win it here, providing everything stays put, with Hazelman's in 2nd place, then it won't be for the want of trying on their part. Now,
back in again.
We saw this guy, Stuart Rodin's Scuderia Cosca, coming in for a fresh set of boots, and a wry look from Stuart tells its own story, that there looks to have been some damage incurred as an aftermath of the Jamie Davis incident, and sadly that's cost them a finish.
Jimmy Bruni leads GT2, and then it's Malicelli, Lieb and Westbrook on track.
Right, here is the genuine position then. Bertolini from Hazelman's by 5.6 seconds. Carl Wendlinger in 3rd and lapping just a tad quicker. Marcel Fessler in 4th and Alan Simonson in 5th.
That was quite extraordinary. I am truly amazed by the turnaround that Vitaphone have managed to achieve in pit lane, because that's where Michael Bartels jumped past Mike Hazeman.
Yeah, by leaving their stop that late, they were able to put much less fuel into the car and make a very, very quick turnaround for Andrea Bertolini, and he does hold this gap now, and Hazeman's has done a better first sector time by almost a second, but he's got 4.5 on top of that to make up if he's going to come anywhere near challenging, and 15 minutes and a little bit of change remain on the clock.
Tall order for Mike Hazeman, and I don't think it's going to happen. Although, that said, we were predicting different things at Nagaro, and look how it all panned out in the last few minutes. This is racing, and it's racing, not just motorsport, and lots of things can happen when you least expect them.
On board with the Aston Martin, Thomas Enger back at the wheel for his final stint, and leading the G2 class because of that brake fire we saw to the Vertigo. In fact, they'd already passed Vertigo before that car had its own problems, although it is back out again. Indeed, there it is, tucked in behind Mike Hazeman's, who we're looking at now.
5.2 seconds the gap between him and Bertolini as they went past the start-finish line last time round. 15 minutes exactly on the clock, and big gap for Mike Hazeman to close in. But once you can see it, it starts to become achievable, doesn't it?
Yeah, and traffic is going to play a part in all of these challenges between now and the end of the race. This is Marcel Fessler trying to get back on terms with Carl Wendlinger, but being frustrated by traffic, and the gap now out to 2.5 seconds, which before it was almost half a second, wasn't it?
But the top four in a 10-second spread after an hour and 45 minutes of racing. The headlights flashing to let Baz Linders know that he wants through. Linders sticking to his line through the corner, and Hazeman will have to wait.
That's Fessler making his way through, I think.
Was it Fessler? That was a very...
I think I saw a 5 on the...
yes, it was, yes.
Yep, on the... Oh, just he was braking very, very late there, Marcel Fessler, giving us plenty of entertainment as well as plenty of speed out of the Corvette.
But it was a very firm pass on the G2 car, wasn't it?
Yep, well, I don't think he can't afford to mess around. I mean, that's cost him another second. Just that little bit of hold-up behind that G2 car has cost a second to Fessler in his battle to Carl Wendlinger, and it's now out to nearly 3.5 seconds from 2.5.
And he's got this car about 2.7 seconds behind him, now closing up on Linders in 101, and this is an easy pass.
Yeah, if you catch him in the right spot, that's the luck of the draw, and Alan Simonson's luck has held true, although he got penalised for his qualifying lap being done with a yellow flag hanging out, and demoted 10 places on the grid for the privilege. He's worked his way back up to 5th, threatening 4th, and Fessler is going to have to start watching his mirrors as well as trying to chase down Carl Wendlinger ahead of him.
Just a little glimpse of yellow right up ahead on the track there, and once again the onboard camera makes the gap look quite large. It makes it look a lot bigger than it really is, and as you can see, it's doable in the last 12 minutes. Again, you can see the car. It gives you something to do, it gives you a way of judging, and it gives you something to aim at.
Wendlinger must be able to see the back of Hazeman's, because he's suddenly put in his the fastest Sector 2 time of the entire race, and here is Simonson already closing up onto the back of Marcel Fessler's Corvette.
So Bertolini completes his 71st lap, and he's 4.5 seconds clear of Mike Hazeman. That too is achievable just about at the rate that Hazeman is going. He was 8/10 of a second faster on that last lap than was Andrea Bertolini, but Bertolini, of course, controlling it from the front, doesn't really need to do a great deal, does he?
No, Carl Wendlinger, we saw just going out of shot there, absolutely flying. Just set his car's fastest lap of the race in 1:27.6, which compares quite nicely with the fastest race time overall of a 27.4. In fact, the second fastest time of all in the entire race. So really on it in these closing stages. Let's remind ourselves, on worn tyres, as is Marcel Fessler. You can start to see the legacy of that now. The car getting very squirrely under braking, and the back trying to break away.
Gives the drivers a lot to think about and a lot of work to do. The the car becomes a handful almost everywhere on the circuit. The only place it isn't a handful is on the straight bits, and there aren't too many of those. So Bertolini, I think, is fairly comfortable with his gap. He can pretty much manage that to Hazeman, and I would say that the Maserati tyres will be in better shape than the Corvette tyres, so he should be relatively easy, shouldn't he?
Yeah, and if the Aston Martin's tyres for Wendlinger are in better shape than Hazeman's, as it would appear Simonson's are than Fessler's, then we could see a change for second place yet as well as fourth.
Championship-wise, we would like Mike Hazeman to at least stay where he is, if not close in. He's taken 0.3 of a second off Bertolini on that lap, so the gap's gone from 4.5 to 4.2. He is easing up to him. That isn't going to be enough, but he definitely doesn't want to be caught by Carl Wendlinger, does he?
Simonson has half the gap. Look at this now. It was 0.6 at the line. It's considerably less as we're looking at it through Simonson's windshield now.
Yes, we said once you can see the car in front, you'll be able to do something about it. And Simonson has done it in pretty much a lap and a half, hasn't he?
Yep, he's absolutely flown by, and Fessler being held up by the vertigo earlier on has allowed Simonson to right up on the back. I don't think there'll be any argument from Fessler here. He knows he can't outbrake the Aston Martin. He'll have to give best, and discretion be the better part of valour in that particular situation, which promotes Alan Simonson's Gigawave Aston Martin to fourth place and Fessler down to fifth.
Still not going to give up, is he? Fessler's right on the case behind Simonson, but now wants the Aston Martin.
Pull away.
It's past, and now will just gallop up the road, chasing after another Aston Martin. That's Carl Wendlinger.
Philip Peters stretched out on the chair in the back of the garage there, watching everything with extreme interest. As Simonson is pulling away already from Marcel Fessler. The gap back from himself to Wendlinger last time round was 6.3, and Wendlinger himself on a charge in his attempt to get up on terms with Mike Hazeman to try and take away the second step of the podium.
Well, Andrea Bertolini has seen them coming and has put in his car's best middle sector of the race, and the gap to Hazeman has gone back from 4.5 to 4.8 seconds, so he's just letting him know that he can do that if he wants.
Yeah, Wendlinger's pared the gap to 1.7 between himself and Hazeman's, really looking for that second spot with just 9 minutes to go.
1.7 seconds the gap last time around. There's the race leader, and here come all the battles. That's Hazeman, and here comes Carl Wendlinger just picking off the CR Scuderia of Tim Mullen as he goes through the chicane. He's got the BMS car in front of him to do as well. This will slow him up a little bit.
Yeah, this is a battle actually in GT2. Joel Prometheus in the 78 car that is just going to be lapped by Wendlinger is now coming under pressure from Tim Mullen. The pair of them separated by about 8/10 last time through, with Mullen the quicker of the two. And this, of course, is important in the Teams Championship because CR Scuderia are desperate to try and take points away from BMS. The Brescia-based team looking good, though, at the moment for second place in the Championship.
But I think just a little bit wrong-footed by the lapping GT1 car, and that will have allowed Tim Mullen to close up a little bit closer to the back end of Joel Prometheus, because he got through that very easily by comparison.
Bertolini reels off the end of his 74th lap. The gap to Mike Hazeman is now a whisker over 5 seconds, and it's 4.5 back there from to Wendlinger, who's been held up on that lap, as we saw, getting past those GT2 cars, and that has cost him a chunk of time.
Yeah, the gap went from 1 point something to just over 4, and we said this will cost him. It has done, and he's still got Simonson behind him, who's now 3.5 seconds clear of Marcel Fessler, but has got 3.5 seconds to make up. So there, runs wide. That is the BMS car, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, Prometheus coming under pressure from Tim Mullen. Tim Mullen in the Sky-sponsored car himself, just being lapped again by Alan Simonson, and making the pressure tell, with Joel Prometheus running off wide to the left on that fast corner, and with the place now inherited, that moves Tim Mullen up to 6th in class.
6 minutes on the clock there, and I'm not sure that he just didn't do that all by himself.
Yes, no,
really.
I think he was probably just watching to see where Tim Mullen was and missed his braking point for that very fast corner.
And behind him, the GT1 Aston Martin looking for a way through all those Ferraris that were all over the place and finding it.
Fessler, having seen himself pegged back in his progress by GT2 cars, wasn't about not to let that happen again, and gave John Prometheus nowhere to turn his car in.
And Bertolini now 5.5 seconds clear of Mike Hazen, and Wendlinger is 5 seconds further back. This man here 2.9 seconds away from Carl Wendlinger now, with 6 minutes just coming up on the countdown. He can see, I'm sure, on the straighter bits of track here, the tail end of Carl Wendlinger's Aston Martin, and that's, as we've seen, plenty of encouragement.
It is. We've only got probably another 4 racing laps to go, given an average lap time around 1:28, and just a whisker under 6 minutes to go. May squeeze 5.
Well, he was almost a second quicker on the last lap.
Yep. Down that little incline, braking hard for the right chicane.
Chasing after the man in front, racing as hard as you can. You've got to get every braking point, not just right but perfect. You've got to get every turn in, not just right but perfect. You've got to get every bit of lappery on slower cars, not just right but perfect, or you won't catch him.
And you've then got to have the luck of catching that lap traffic in the right place. On screen, the battle for 6th place carries on. Greg Franchi has been ever closing up onto the back of Andy McGraw's Maserati, but never quite looking in position to threaten as yet.
Right there, but as you say, not close enough to look like a challenge. And the leaders starting yet another lap, as the clock shows that Simonson set the car's fastest lap that time around. So Alan Simonson very much after Carl Wendlinger, and the gap last time around 1.9 seconds. So he actually had another second out of Carl Wendlinger on that lap.
Fabrizio then looking on a little interestedly, I would think, by now, at his car's second place position. Mike Hazelman's the team patron in the car at the moment, although it is Marcel Fessler's version we're looking at, the blue mirrored number 5 example.
And Fessler currently in 5th place, 9 seconds adrift from this man, Alan Simonson, who is chasing Carl Wendlinger, even though there are only 4 minutes, which is 3 laps left. You can look how close he is now. This is so encouraging for Simonson. He's got something to aim for, and he is aiming for it. And you can see him reeling in the Jet Alliance car. It's happening right in front of your eyes. Alan Simonson is just quicker.
And again, it's a question of youth versus experience, isn't it? Carl Wendlinger, of course, former Formula 1 driver, and many, many years of this sort of work behind him. Alan Simonson in his first full season in a GT1 car.
But once again, we've got slower traffic in front. Alan Simonson will be hoping to use that. He wants to see Carl Wendlinger held up by the GT2 car. If he can, he wants to see him boxed in by the GT2 leader, because that's who it is. They're coming up on the tail end of Jimmy Bruni in the 50 car, and he moves aside. Wendlinger goes through. This has broken well for Carl Wendlinger, hasn't it? Because Bruni will take his line through the corner, and that will give Alan Simonson something to think about. Loses it on 2 corners as well. Wendlinger's making his escape. Here comes the second Aston Martin, and he lost a little bit of time there.
Yes, he will have lost a bit of momentum, which is the important thing, because Wendlinger was able to almost go through without braking on Bruni, whereas Simonson's had to anchor up and follow him through a couple of corners, but already back up on the back bumper of Wendlinger's Aston. Be interesting to see which of these two comes out the better in another 3 minutes time, 2 3/4.
Objects in the onboard camera might be closer than they appear. Look how different it is from outside.
Simonson's car getting really twitchy there, just holding on to it as it rifled through that chicane, almost as if it weren't there. And Simonson really is on the case. He had a fantastic recovery drive into 3rd place at the British GTs at Donington Park last weekend. He's doing it all again this weekend and looking for another podium finish.
Nigel Stepney on the pit wall there, watching this battle develop and looking quite pleased with the way it's going. Look, it is now doable. This could become a pass. He's caught Wendlinger. There's another car in front. What's going to happen this time around? This is almost exactly the same position that they were in last time. Wendlinger might well be able to take advantage of Russo's position, but no, Simonson's done it early. He's through. He's still got his sights on Carl Wendlinger. The countdown clock says 1 minute and 50 seconds. Somewhere the checkered flag is is being unfurled for Andrea Bertolini, who is 7 seconds clear of Mike Hazeman, but this is a battle for third place. Wendlinger, I'm sure, thinks he's got it won. It's so close to the end of the race, but Alan Simonsen could launch a charge at any second, perhaps even braking for this chicane as they come up to the end of the straight behind the pits. Will he duck out of the slipstream? He's not close enough, and he's not going to do it there, but where will he try?
Well, he's got the remainder of this lap and one more in order to do it, so not urgent that he gets on with it straight away, but looks for a weakness where he believes his car is definitely quicker than Wendlinger's, and to pursue that position on the final tour.
Obviously good for a race driver to make the pass on the final lap, because it gives your victim no chance to come back at you, no final lap on which to undo the damage. So if you can work it out and save it up for the last lap, it's always a good thing. But I'm sure that Alan Simonsen will take it any way he can get it now.
It's a high risk strategy to leave it to the last lap, just in case it doesn't actually come off. For any reason, he might come up against a slower car that you weren't expecting to see. His team will be telling him that in his ear and the radio, I'm sure. He's as close as he's ever been to Wendlinger this time through. They're going to steam up, start, finish straight together, crossing the line almost as one, just 1.7 tenths the difference between the two. That's what it looks like on your picture.
And Alan Simonsen all over the place behind Carl Wendlinger. We have only a few seconds left on the clock, so this will be the final lap. And if Alan Simonsen's going to do it, he's got to do it on this lap. Watch for him now. He's close enough, I think, to have a stab at it at this chicane. He's got on the gas early, coming out of the corner. He's got the slingshot, he's got the draft, he's out of the slipstream. Can he outbrake Carl Wendlinger? He's on the wrong side of the racetrack. Wendlinger's got track position, and he's all smoke and fumes over the chicane, and the moment has been and gone, and that was it. I don't think he'll get a second chance.
No, if nothing else, he's now got dirt on those tyres as well, and I don't think he's going to be able to have another stab. Having said that, we're talking about Alan Simonsen, not an ordinary mortal.
Well, that, I'm sure, was the moment that he'd selected. Here it is again.
Yeah,
Wendlinger's got the racing line here, and this is the hardest way to do it on this corner.
And that's the experience, isn't it? Wendlinger was not going to be sucked into taking a more conventional line, swinging wide and then cutting the corner into that. He took the defensive line all the way down the straight that leads into that chicane and left absolutely no chance for Simonsen but to go the long way round. You saw the result.
Here's the result, though. That is, somehow or other, Andrea Bertolini and Michael Bartels winning this race with a bit of pit stop conjuring, and Mike Hazeman comes second to keep the championship battle alive until the final round in Argentina. Carl Wendlinger third, Simonsen fourth, Bruni and AF Corsa and Tony Villander win GT2, and it's going to be BMS behind in second place, and then Mark Lieb, and then Richard Westbrook and Emmanuel Collard. And I think the second place battle might still be alive for one more round, but that's a very good result for Malucelli and Roberti. It's what they came here for.
Battling still going on right the way down the field. Greg Franchi not giving up in his attempts, but narrowly failing to pass Andy Negrão in the number 2 Vitaphone car, and behind them will come Matteo Bobby a lap down in the third string car. This is the third place in GT2. Mark Lieb currently holding it from Richard Westbrook. It would pay the team better to have Westbrook ahead for the championship points, but it's going to be Mark Lieb because there are no team orders in this form of racing, and Mark Lieb comes in to grab the final podium step for himself and Marcus Paltala and deny Richard Westbrook and Manu Collard.
Well, not only are there no team orders, but that's absolutely against the rules of the FIA to move over and let your teammate take over your position and score more points, and you wouldn't see it in any kind of race. Oh, no, you might if you're watching Formula 1 this morning.
That's it. Which is why there are no team orders, of course, but the final result stands as Bertolini, Hazeman and Wendlinger in that order after absolutely cracking battles up and down the field. Mike Hazeman's not quite able to carry the final challenge to the Maserati, who stole the lead in the pit stop sequence. That final pit stop from Bertolini being an absolute blinder, and Mike Hazeman's not able to match the pace ultimately of the Maserati in the very last knockings of this race.
Wow, that was 2 hours of racing, wasn't it?
Draw breath.
Whew. Yes, what a lot we've seen going on here. We've had fires, accidents, we've had spins, we've had the whole drive-through penalties. Let's not forget that we've had every kind of racing emotion that you can imagine in the last couple of hours, and we've still got a championship battle going on as we head towards our final round at San Luis in Argentina, and we've still got to have a word with the winners and find out exactly how they viewed the racing that we have just been enjoying, and I have enjoyed it.
It's been an absolute belter.
So there you are, Bertolini from Hazeman and Wendlinger first, second and third. Yes, quite. How did they achieve that?
Breathe.
Yes.
I think is the answer. Goodness me. Important win there too for Bertolini, not just because it extends their lead in the Drivers' Championship, but also because it gives them, crucially, a second win in the championship over the Hazeman's crew only having had the one.
And here's another team that's blessed by some kind of magic as well. Of course,
yes.
Everybody else can do immense wrong, but they always fall on their feet, don't they?
Yeah, they seem to have Harry Potter in the pit lane somewhere with them, don't they? That
Yes.
luck.
Absolutely true, yeah. So they've consolidated their championship lead, but I think that BMS Scuderia Italia has consolidated its second place with Richard Westbrook in fourth place. That hasn't helped his pursuit, and he's got a bit more work to do at the final round, but it is still alive to the final round. And by the same token, although Hazeman and Golin are now a couple points further behind than they were, they have still got a chance.
And just getting the plaudits from Andrea Bertolini, who equally goes across to welcome Jimmy Bruni home, and Tony Vilander. They too pairing up with Matteo Malucelli and Paolo Roberti, who came home a strong second for BMS Scuderia Italia.
And Carl Wendlinger was the man in the background there, shaking hands with his crew. Intense pressure from Alan Simonson at the end of that race, but of course, as you say, Graham, he's seen all that before.
And didn't he do well to hold off that challenge from Simonson, who was absolutely storming his way through?
We have Andrea Bertolini in the pit lane. Let's have a word with him now. There's Haley.
Congratulations, Andrea. What a performance.
All the team has worked very hard. The Michelin tire is really unbelievable. And we do a really maximum attack, like when they said Michael with me, maximum attack, and we are really happy. I think we do a really strong race, especially after yesterday, because we have a problem in qualifying. But the Vitaphone team is really strong because we work very hard all the night, and today me and Michael, we have a perfect car like yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Interesting thing from Andrea Bertolini there. Andrea Bertolini has just taken the checkered flag in this race, and of course we're reminded that this car was buried up to the A-pillar's entire wall this time yesterday afternoon, and the team worked pretty much through the night to get it back on track at all, and they've pulled off a victory, and so too have of course Jimmy Bruni and Tony Vilander there with Haley.
Congratulations, Jimmy, you've got the championship and another win in your hands.
Yeah, sorry to be delayed. The other weekend was something, and then it was not the cake on the cake. It was fine, it was good, but we finished fourth, we won the championship, and here we want to show what we can do. Me and Tony, we did I think fantastic race. I started sixth, then I was the second after Tony giving the car to P1, and from there we just finished the race.
Tony, already you have the championship, but you still tried hard today.
Yeah, as I told you earlier, we do our maximum also this weekend, and the result is very good. We were a little bit unlucky in the qualifying, probably not the pace for the pole position, but maybe first 2-3 positions. But now in the race was a different story. Jimmy had a fantastic start, and I had basically all the time the track was free, apart from a few GT1s overtaking me. It was really good, no problems at all.
Thanks, guys. Congratulations.
I have checked with my Italian phrase book, and the cake on the cake has got no hidden meanings whatsoever.
The what if department proudly presents what if Andrew Piccoli hadn't been punted off.